Chapter 334. The human-faced crystal body continued. Although I'm not worried about them, the crystal cultivators will be searching for the remaining life auras above. They won't be able to leave this place for the time being. That black stone is a treasure, right? It hasn't turned into a crystal yet. Su Fang looked at the black stone in his hand and then looked at the black stone on the throne. He felt that it wasn't an ordinary treasure and was very curious. You still have the mood to search for treasures? The human-faced crystal body pointed to the side. Look, those treasures were all found from the body of this Vice City Lord. How many are there? Immediately turning around, not only was Su Fang shocked, but even Green Feather King was also shocked. In the right side of the room there were all kinds of treasures. None of them had the aura of a small world. They were all treasures of a large world. All kinds of stones, runes, gems, immortal stones, secret manuals, Tao artifacts. However, most of the treasures had turned into crystals and were useless. Even many Tao artifacts had turned into crystals. There were only a few Tao artifacts that hadn't turned into crystals. Everyone wants Tao artifacts. If you want them, take them. The human-faced crystal body was not interested in Tao artifacts at all, because he was about to be taken over by the crystal body and become a crystal cultivator. What use did he have for treasures? His life was almost gone. Su Fang was indeed attracted by a few Tao artifacts, but the reality was that if he couldn't leave the Xianjia Gate, any treasures would be useless. After recovering, Su Fang bowed to the human-faced crystal body giant. How should this junior address senior? You're a disciple of the Immortal Sealing Sect. I didn't expect to meet a Longevity Realm cultivator. I remember there's an elder from the Immortal Sealing Sect outside. His name is Superior Yuzhen. That's indeed an elder from the Immortal Sealing Sect. However, he's been trapped here for thousands of years. This junior isn't familiar with him. The human-faced crystal body laughed. You're interesting. This one is the Sky Ride Elder of the Divine Martial Sacred Mountain. The Divine Martial Sacred Mountain was a first-rate power in the Crimson Firmament continent. Elder, why can this crystal city turn cultivators into crystals? Su Fang asked politely. I don't know the specifics, but there's one thing I'm certain of. Once this city's aura is absorbed into the body, or if it's fused with the aura for a long time, then whether it's a material or a life form, it will slowly be devoured by the crystal. Look at me. In about a few decades, I'll completely turn into a crystal body. Once I'm melted by the crystal, even if I absorb my vitality, it'll be useless. I won't be able to stop the crystal's power from seizing my body. Perhaps immortals can, but we mortal cultivators can't. Yes. However, Su Fang realized that he would not gain anything from this unintentional question. Unexpectedly, the Sky Ride Elder nodded. Green Feather King also looked over. There's a plaza in the center of the city that's been reduced to ashes. That plaza has a strange crystal mirror. After part of my body turned into crystal, my speed increased quite a bit. I stealthily searched Crystal City for a way out and accidentally found that crystal mirror, said the Sky Ride Elder. That mirror is very strange. From time to time, some cultivators would come out of it to search for treasures in the city. They would quickly return to the mirror and disappear. I wanted to go take a look at the mirror to see what's inside, but I didn't have the courage. A mirror? There were still cultivators coming and going. Su Fang and Green Feather King smiled. They had taken the risk of coming to the depths of Crystal City and finally gained something. The Sky Ride Elder couldn't smile. A few years ago I stealthily went there. This time I saw several cultivators burning with flames coming out of the crystal mirror. I don't know if there's a space inside the mirror or if the mirror leads to another Tao item space, but one thing is certain. That crystal mirror can leave Crystal City. Why don't you go in and take a look? Green Feather King cupped his fists. When I first came here, I wanted to enter the crystal mirror. But at that time I was still in my physical body. There were crystal cultivators around the mirror, and I couldn't get close. Now I still can't get close. After all, I still have a bit of life energy on me. Those crystal cultivators will kill me on the spot. Even if I enter the mirror, I won't be able to leave Immortal Jah Gate alive. The Sky Ride Elder seemed helpless. Even a Grand Elder of Divine Martial Sacred Mountain seemed as powerless as a mortal here. Then let's kill our way out. Su Fong looked at Green Feather King. Why don't we work together with Senior? He's very familiar with this place. He can lead us to the crystal mirror. This king has no objections. But you should ask the Sky Ride Elder if he's willing. Green Feather King glanced at the Sky Ride Elder. Sky Ride Elder spread his hands. I also want to get out alive. I want to get to Divine Martial Sacred Mountain alive. But I can't use any divine abilities in this body, and I can't condense any true chi. I can only rely on my crystal body's hardness. I can't shake the barriers around the plaza. This king won't be able to last much longer. Look, my skin is starting to crystallize. Green Feather King raised his arms. His skin began to emit a faint crystalline light. There wasn't much time left. Fortunately, Crystal City and Green Feather King would be able to turn into a crystal body. Su Fong seemed to have forgotten that he was in Immortal Jah Gate. After a while, he activated Yang Qi. Green Feather King absorbed that Yang Qi, and it swept toward his skin. Creak! The crystallized skin layer actually began to shatter miraculously. The aura of the other crystals on his body also began to disappear. Inconceivable! Seeing this, the flight attendant elder's eyes widened. His crystal body could disappear, and his body could recover. Su Fong smiled knowingly. I can help you recover your physical body, but it won't be easy. I hope you can work hard with us, and find a way out from the crystal mirror so that we can escape from this Xianjia Gate. If I can recover my physical body, then I naturally have to do my best. Dying in Immortal Jah Gate is nothing. Hiding here is just waiting for death. I might as well fight. Whoosh! As Su Fong opened his palm, runes containing Yang Qi appeared one after another. The Sky Ride Elder knew that these Yang Qi runes could purify his crystal body and recover his physical body. He held them in his hand and wept. I might need some more essence blood. Senior, don't worry. Junior will prepare some essence blood for you to help you recover your physical body. I will do my best to purify my crystal body. The Sky Ride Elder hadn't expected Su Fong, a longevity disciple, to have so many tricks up his sleeves. In this Immortal Jah Gate, even tribulation realms like them were powerless, but a longevity disciple was able to survive. It was truly shocking. The Sky Ride Elder crushed a Yang Qi rune and sucked the Yang Qi into his body. Su Fong and Green Feather Monarch went to the side room. All the treasures had turned into crystals. Only 2 Dao artifacts remained. In fact, there was still 1 Dao artifact that hadn't completely crystallized. 1/3 of it was crystallized. Since crystals were a material of a major world and no one in a minor world could touch it, it was equivalent to a useless Dao artifact. The 2 Dao artifacts were a bead and a strange human-shaped artifact containing sword chi. All the treasures here have turned into crystals. Only these 2 artifacts are intact. They must be very powerful Dao artifact. Senior, you are powerful. Junior can see that the human-shaped artifact contains a shocking amount of sword chi. It must be a Dao artifact with terrifying attack power. Senior, since you have the strength to fuse with it, let's see if you can use it. If you can use a Dao artifact in this Immortal Jah Gate, wouldn't you be able to deal with Crystal Realm cultivators? Su Fong pointed at the human-shaped Dao artifact. He felt that Green Feather Monarch might be able to use it. At the very least, he couldn't use a Dao artifact. He took the bead and put it away first. Waves of monster chi came out of Green Feather Monarch's palms. The human-shaped Dao artifact was about the same height as an ordinary person. It was thin, like a sword spirit that was about to be resurrected. Its body was gray and there were some crisscrossing spirit runes. Some sword runes that looked different emitted an ancient and mysterious aura. Su Fong couldn't understand these runes. Green Feather Monarch was also confused. However, he urged his monster chi to sense it. It seemed that he also wanted to fuse with the Tao artifact. If he could fuse with it, who would be his match in the entire Jua celestial realm? When his strength reached the peak, he could use this sword to defy the heavens. He could kill his way to the immortal Sealing Sect and wipe out the humiliation of 10,000 years. Immortal Sealing Sect. Green Feather Monarch really thought of this. His monster chi made the human-shaped Tao artifact tremble slightly. This peerless Tao artifact was about to awaken. Fusing with it isn't a problem. I estimate that with my strength, I can only use 1% of its power. And this Tao artifact seems to only need immortal stones from a great world. Once the immortal stones are embedded in the Tao artifact, it can be used to attack. About an hour later, it seemed that Green Feather Monarch had figured out some of the secrets of the human-shaped Tao artifact. He searched among the resources that had turned into crystals. After a while, he grabbed a large number of crystals that were about the same size as spirit stones. Unfortunately, the immortal stones can't resist the corrosive power of the crystals and turned into crystals. This king can't use this Tao artifact without finding the immortal stones. Senior, just fuse with it. Junior will look for the immortal stones. Su Fong looked at the large pile of materials that had turned into crystals. He urged his chi to move the large crystals away. Not far behind, Elder Fengqing's gaze was cold. He glanced at the two of them from time to time. His upper body had already returned to being flesh and blood. Whoosh! The crystals were moved away to look for the immortal stones inside. The immortal stones should be the spirit stones of a small world. It was just that their energy and quality were different. The immortal stones contained the same high-level power as the Xianjia Gate. Green Feather Monarch sat cross-legged and forced his blood chi into the human-shaped Tao artifact. The demonic chi became more dazzling. It seemed that with Peng Monarch's strength, he could really fuse with the Tao artifact. While watching Green Feather Monarch fusing with the Tao artifact, Su Fong couldn't help but think of Li Haojie. He was a longevity disciple, but he could actually use the origin-suppressing monster transforming heavenly book. It was really shocking. Perhaps the female disciple of the twin immortal sect, Zhang Ruoyun, could also use a Tao artifact. I didn't expect that even the pills would turn into crystals. He looked around and found that the immortal stones had all turned into crystals. He looked at a few of the jade bottles. Although they had turned into crystals, there might still be space inside. He instantly shattered the jade bottles. Pa! Pa! A series of explosions. As Su Fong expected, two of the jade bottles really did have space inside. Dozens of pills rolled out of the first jade bottle, all of them immortal pills. Meanwhile, another jade bottle suddenly gushed out. It was an altar. An altar made of immortal stones was actually the same as an altar made of spirit stones. Most of the immortal stones on the altar had turned into crystals. Some of the immortal stones that hadn't turned into crystals couldn't be used. His gaze was attracted by a seal on the altar. The power of the seal had been weakened by the decay of the crystals. Su Fong only shook slightly, and the seal disappeared. A Tao artifact almost fell to the ground from the seal fragment. Chapter 335. He raised his hand and grabbed the Tao artifact in time. At first, he thought that the Tao artifact was very ordinary, but when he saw its shape and saw his left arm start to tremble, he realized that the Tao artifact was extraordinary. This was a Tao artifact formed from a spiritual treasure. It was a flower with a purple flower bud. The corolla was the size of a bowl, and there was a silver staff supporting it. It became the flower's disc. Su Fong held the silver staff with one hand, and an incredible life aura came from the flower. However, most of the silver staff was also filled with a crystalline color. Clearly, this spiritual treasure Tao artifact was also gradually crystallized. Fortunately, the flower still had a shocking immortal aura. It's a pity that this Tao artifact was obtained by the vice city lord of this city, and wanted to refine it into a Tao artifact. Unfortunately, most of it was crystallized. This proves that Xianjia's gate is far superior to these Tao artifacts and all the treasures here. The crystallization power is so terrifying. It was a pity that this Tao artifact created from a spiritual treasure was also reduced to a waste. Great, there are 5 dazzling immortal stones under the flower. In the end, he found something. At the bottom of the flower, there were more than a dozen different immortal stones. Their aura was very shocking and dazzling. Most of them had crystallized, leaving behind 5 immortal stones that were full of aura and only had a trace of crystallized aura. Since the Tao artifact was half a waste, he used his energy to take out the 5 immortal stones. If the Tao artifact was complete, Su Fang would not be able to move the immortal stones with his strength. In the end, because of the crystallization power, the Tao artifact's defense and overall quality were destroyed, and it lost its integrity. Green Feather King obtained the 5 immortal stones and was overjoyed. He continued to focus on fusing the Tao artifact. My left arm has always had a strong reaction to the aura of the spiritual flower. They are all wood-type treasures. Since this spiritual flower cannot become a Tao artifact, he might as well let the taming dragonwood's left arm absorb all the spiritual flower's energy. His left arm immediately burned with a green luster. He grabbed the flower in his left hand and used the 9 Yang 9 transformations. His aura was under Su Fang's control. Rustle! The spiritual flower shook slightly in his left hand, and a shocking amount of spiritual energy was directly absorbed into his palm or into his 5 fingers. At first, the fusion of the high-grade spirit flower energy was very slow. However, when Su Fang activated the primordial chaos sacred realm and absorbed the cold energy, the pure yang energy from the fusion of yin and yang quickly absorbed the spirit flower energy. Regardless of whether it was high-grade energy or spirit flower energy, it absorbed a large amount of it into his palm. The power of the fusion of yin and yang was truly terrifying. Even giants like Green Feather King, Li Ziqing, and Elder Fengqing were unable to breathe in the Xianjia Gate, but Su Fang could do it. In less than half a day, a terrifying high-level energy burst out from Su Fang's head, left arm, and body, shaking many of the crystal objects in the right ear chamber. Have a breakthrough it was when Su Fang was not prepared. The pure essence of the Great World brought by the Great World Spirit Flower was something that even Su Fang could not foresee. Moreover, this time, he was at the 10th level of the Longevity Realm. He had crossed the Great Ladder from the Longevity Realm and stepped into the Undying Realm. His physical body seemed to have shattered into pieces at this moment. It was not a promotion of the ladder, but a breakthrough of the realm. The explosive force of this breakthrough made Su Fang unable to control it. From his feet to the top of his head, there was a fierce breakthrough force everywhere. At the same time, the power of the 9 suns burned in his body. Even the dragon-taming wood in his left arm was burning. The impurities of the placenta surged out like rivers and seas. Under the flames of the breakthrough, they were all incinerated. Yang Qi, what an amazing Yang Qi! Even the catastrophe realm does not have such a level, but why can he absorb the aura in the Xianjia Gate? Why can he surpass the catastrophe realm and pass through the Xianjia Gate unimpeded? Is he the one who has great luck and can unlock the secret of the Xianjia Gate? The momentum brought by the breakthrough of the Undying Realm made Elder Fengqing, who was cultivating in the middle of the cave, analyze it secretly with a shocked and cold gaze. Obviously, Su Fang had reached a height that even he, an elder, could not achieve. So there are benefits to not having a golden core. If I had a golden core, I would still be absorbing the power of nature and condensing it. But without a golden core, my entire body is in a state of emptiness. I don't need to absorb the power of nature, and I am not shackled by the golden core like all other cultivators. During the breakthrough process, Su Fang was still absorbing the power of the spiritual flowers. Because of the high-level spiritual energy of the spiritual flowers, it gave him an amazing amount of energy during the breakthrough. At this time, he was sizing up the state of his body. His dantian was burning, and his meridians were shattering. Under the burning of life force and yang qi, they began to condense again. The two yang meridians were the same. The shattering power swept through his body, and most of his bones were in a broken state. Originally, if a cultivator wanted to break through to the undying realm, they mainly had to work on their golden core and physical body. However, Su Fang did not have a golden core, so he was not shackled. Instead, he easily stepped into the undying realm. As for his physical body, he was an ancient great perfection cultivator. He could adapt to all kinds of power that current cultivators could not adapt to. For example, being able to absorb the high-level aura of the Xianjia Gate must be related to being a great perfection cultivator. It was not just the power of dual cultivation. As a void dust cultivator, he had already walked on an unprecedented path. There were no shackles, but there were also shackles. On this path of counterattack, only courage could keep moving forward. Losing his golden core was something Su Fang could not control. For example, entering the Xianjia Gate was something he could not decide. Prince Shui was so powerful. Perhaps at the level of Green Feather King, he, as an immortal disciple, could not resist. In the end, he chose to risk his life and enter the Xianjia Gate. It was to find a way to live that belonged to him. Without condensing a golden core, his power could freely enter and leave his meridians and flesh. After a large part of his body was shattered, he felt like a newborn baby. Every drop of blood and flesh was brand new. Undying realm at this time, Su Fang's flesh was an undying body. His blood was undying blood, and his power was undying power. He could live for thousands of years. There were few divine patterns in his body, such as the Daluo Heavenly Sword Qi, Ruler Divine Steps, Green Murderous True Fire, and Giant Diamond Body. These divine patterns formed the Flesh Fetus Divine Armor. Because he did not have a golden core, most of the divine patterns formed by divine abilities were concentrated in the Flesh Fetus Divine Armor. Some of them were concentrated in the Divine Aperture. This spiritual flower is so magical. It should have the ability to cleanse and enlighten. Otherwise, I would not have reached the undying realm so quickly. This flower can perfectly fuse with pure yang power and dragon-taming wood. That is why I can reach the undying realm without feeling powerless. After the breakthrough, he was not baptized by the heavenly tribulation. His body calmed down like a piece of blood jade, perfect and flawless. His two yang meridians were stronger, and his third yang meridian also condensed a shocking amount of pure yang qi. His divine aperture, meridians, and bones were all incomparably strong. Looking at the spiritual flower in his left hand, he had absorbed less than 1% of its qi. If this continued, this spiritual flower could help Su Fang reach the undying realm, or even the yang infant realm. It seemed that he was forced to break into Xianjia's Gate, which was a journey of certain death, but unexpectedly, it was a journey of transformation and improvement for Su Fang. The dragon taming would continue to absorb the spiritual flower's power and began to focus on fusing with Dharma treasures, especially the Origin Saint and the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. However, the Origin Saint still had no reaction. Was it really a divine artifact that surpassed a Tao artifact? The Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda kept absorbing the high-level qi in Su Fang's body. It kept recovering and fusing with the purple cloud Dharma spirit step by step. The other Dharma treasures were also in the process of fusing. Prince Shui damaged my Dharma treasures, but I have completely recovered after reaching the undying realm. Prince Shui, you took away my rainbow soul-absorbing bell, wind and fire dual spirit swords, and life-seizing recreating pill. In the future, I will personally take them back from you one by one. After becoming an undying cultivator, his strength had more than doubled. Su Fong felt that his whole body was full of power. He had just broken through to the undying first layer. Because he was constantly absorbing the spiritual flower's essence, he had already reached the first layer's normal state. At this speed, he would soon reach the peak of the undying first layer. He could roughly estimate his strength. It was almost at the peak of the undying first layer. This was Su Fong's own strength. If he activated his Dharma treasures, killing any undying cultivator would not be a problem. It would also not be difficult for him to fight against ordinary young soul realm giants alone. Chi. In the center of the cave, layers of energy suddenly melted. The flight attendant elder jumped up. A large amount of crystals fell off his body and successfully restored his flesh and blood body. However, he was as thin as firewood and did not have a strong aura. Senior, this is the Yang Soul Realm Cultivator's blood essence that Junior once collected. Su Fong took out the human blood goo and threw it to the flight attendant elder. Human blood goo, good stuff, good stuff. This is the best treasure for righteous path cultivators to absorb the chi of blood essence or to reconstruct their bodies. As expected of an experienced and knowledgeable person, the flight attendant elder needed to recover his chi and blood. He had been crystallized. A large amount of flesh and blood essence had been consumed along with the crystallization. Now, he was as thin as firewood and needed life energy to recover. Although Su Fong needed this person's help, he would not give him more yang qi and life energy. He had already revealed part of his secret in front of the flight attendant elder. The flight attendant elder immediately absorbed a trace of blood essence from the human blood goo. He also had his own resources and had even swallowed the life-seizing recreating pill. The abilities of Calamity Realm giants were terrifying. Their recovery ability was also astonishing. One could clearly see that the flight attendant elder's body was growing new flesh and blood cells step by step. His life energy was constantly changing. Kid, you can't be completely devoted to people. Although we need this person, you can't treat him wholeheartedly. Perhaps he will become your enemy in the next moment. I'm almost done with my preparations. Green Feather King secretly transmitted his voice. Junior is also on guard, especially after breaking through to the Undying Realm and absorbing the high-level aura of the Xianjia Gate. Some Dao runes seem to have appeared in the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique. Junior will also be on guard against the flight attendant elder. Senior can activate a human-shaped Dao artifact. Su Fong revealed an excited expression. This human-shaped Dao artifact is called Heaven Monarch's Soul Sword. It is a powerful Dao artifact refined by this city's deputy city lord according to his own body shape. Fortunately, this Dao artifact is very simple to activate. It only needs to be embedded with immortal stones. However, each immortal stone can only be activated once. The higher the grade of the immortal stone, the stronger the activation power. Green Feather King smiled. This was something Su Fong had never seen before. His smile was very sinister. I finally picked up a treasure. In the future, as long as I find a way to get immortal stones, I can activate Heaven Monarch's Soul Sword. Heaven Monarch's Soul Sword. It was actually such an easy Dao artifact to activate. It only needed a powerful immortal stone. No wonder Green Feather King smiled so proudly. I knew it would be like this. The flight attendant elder in the cave residence was secretly gloomy. After a few more days, the flight attendant elder recovered his vitality. He seemed to be in a very good state. However, his strength was estimated to have only recovered a few levels. He was comparable to Green Feather King. They collected all the treasures in the cave residence that could be taken away. In fact, there weren't many treasures. However, to them, almost all the materials in the great world were treasures. The crystal cultivator really left. Moving the rockery, the three of them came to the ground and sensed that there was no crystal cultivator. Most of the entire residence had collapsed. Chapter 336. Green Feather Monarch protected Su Fong at all times while the flight attendant elder led the way. They left the mansion quietly and ascended a tall building. Looking at the center of the city from the tall building, there was a large crystal mountain that had been shaved off. On one side of the mountain there was a crystal door. That was the crystal mirror. It looked like a mirror, but it should be a door. It was like a door that could travel between two different worlds. They were too far away to see clearly. They could only get a general idea. The flight attendant elder led the two of them through a few streets and gradually approached the central city. They did not see many crystal cultivators along the way. Once a crystal cultivator is completely crystallized, they are actually puppet. Moreover, a force will form runes in the heart. I reckon there is a supreme expert controlling the crystal city. I can't say for sure. It is difficult to control the power of a great world. They were already close to the crystal mountain. After passing through a few magnificent crystal buildings, they arrived at the ruined plaza. The flight attendant elder pointed at the crystal cultivators standing around the square and secretly transmitted his voice. Once a life force approaches, the crystal cultivators will immediately wake up and chase after the life force. Look at the white bones near the crystal mirror. They are the cultivators who were killed. Some appeared from the crystal mirror and were sensed and killed by the crystal cultivators. It is indeed difficult for us to get close. Hundreds of crystal cultivators are scattered around. The three of them were sizing up the ruins and found many crystal cultivators. Although it was a ruin, everything had turned into crystal. Green Feather Monarch had a difficult expression. The crystal mirror was only 1 kilometer away, but there were a lot of crystal cultivators in this distance. They had to find a way to hide their life force to avoid waking them up. Even the flight attendant elder had no suggestions at the moment. Swish! Just as the three of them were deep in thought and secretly accumulating power, the mysterious crystal mirror in the center of the plaza suddenly surged out a few flames. Sparks flew, and a few fiery cultivators walked out of the mirror. Each of them was more than 6 meters tall, and their bodies were covered in flames. No flesh or body could be seen. It was exactly as the flight attendant elder described. On the other side of the mirror, there must be another layer of space. The flight attendant elder looked at the two of them and said, "We have a way. We can awaken the crystal cultivators and let them deal with the fiery cultivators. We can take advantage of the chaos to enter the crystal mirror." Good idea. Su Fong nodded. However, Green Feather Monarch reminded Su Fong in private, this person really doesn't have good intentions. He knows how to make use of others. You and I can be used by him at any time. If we help him, then he'll harm us. If that's really the case, then Senior, there's no need to be courteous. Just kill whoever needs to be killed. In truth, Su Fong also felt a chill coming from the flight attendant elder. The flight attendant elder brought the two of them through the spatial cracks of the ruins, bypassing a large number of crystal cultivators. This person had come here several times, otherwise he wouldn't have been so familiar with the terrain. They circled around to the other side of the plaza, almost behind the crystal mirror. From here, the crystal mirror looked like a winding immortal cloud. It was impossible to tell whether it was a mirror or a door. The flaming people carefully came to the ruins and searched. From time to time they would find some empty bags from the corpses. These empty bags had yet to crystallize. It seemed that the flaming people were looking for resources. After the three of them discussed, they quietly approached the back of the crystal mirror. The flight attendant elder and Green Feather Monarch condensed runes and ran around the flaming people with lightning speed. When the runes broke, a burst of life aura surged out. The surrounding crystal cultivators immediately reacted and turned to stare at the flaming people. Surprisingly, the flaming people didn't seem to be afraid of the crystal cultivators. They were either searching among the corpses or looking for resources in the ruins that had yet to completely crystallize. Dozens of crystal cultivators had awakened, and they formed an encirclement and surrounded the flaming people. Green Feather Monarch and Su Fang were waiting for an opportunity when the flight attendant elder suddenly flashed with a cold light and flew towards the crystal mirror. He flew past several fiery crystal cultivators, and a large amount of life aura leaked out from where he left. "I'm sorry. Someone has to deal with the flaming crystal cultivators. I'll take my leave first." The flight attendant elder used the power of his divine image to conceal most of his life aura. Only 2 fiery crystal cultivators chased after him. This person is indeed sinister and shameless. When Su Fang and Green Feather Monarch flashed out, there were already dozens of crystal cultivators surrounding them. Because of the flight attendant elder's life aura, even more crystal cultivators had awakened around the crystal mirror. Green Feather Monarch couldn't wait to kill the flight attendant elder. In fact, he had already expected to be ambushed, but he didn't expect it to come so quickly. Buzz. At this moment, the crystal mirror shook. It was because the flight attendant elder had already flown into the crystal mirror. He activated the crystal mirror's aura, causing the entire plaza to shake. A large number of crystal cultivators had awakened, and the flaming people had already been surrounded. Some were desperately escaping. "Come up!" Green Feather Monarch activated the human-shaped Tao artifact Heaven Monarch's Soul Sword. Heaven Monarch's Soul Sword floated horizontally in midair, while Su Fang and Green Feather Monarch stepped on its back. An immortal stone was slammed into Heaven Monarch's Soul Sword's head. There was a swoosh, and Heaven Monarch's Soul Sword released a shocking sword light. Swish! Swish! The speed of the fiery crystal cultivators was several times faster than the fiery crystal cultivators. They flew out from the encirclement of the crystal mirror and went straight into the crystal mirror. However, because the fiery crystal cultivators had escaped to the front of the mirror, they were surrounded by more than a dozen fiery crystal cultivators. They couldn't fly into the crystal mirror smoothly. It turned out that when they were close to the fiery crystal cultivators, Su Fang could feel that the fiery crystal cultivator's aura was not intense, but it was filled with fire elemental essence of life. Heaven Monarch's Soul Sword, sword shocking clouds. Green Feather Monarch was now displaying the demeanor of an almighty. He didn't hesitate to use the hard-earned immortal stone to protect Su Fang as they soared into the sky. Heaven Monarch's Soul Sword leaped up and raised his arm. Swoosh! There was a jolt in midair, and a sword light slashed at the crystal cultivators at an astonishing speed. Boom! Boom! What a terrifying Tao artifact! The sword aura shattered the crystal cultivators one by one or cut them in half. The Tao artifact's power didn't seem to be shackled too much inside the Xianjia door. Green Feather Monarch and Su Fang seized the opportunity and sped towards the center of the mirror, while a few fiery crystal cultivators were blasted away by the sword aura. Who knew that a surviving fiery crystal cultivator would spit out immortal fire again and burn Su Fang and Green Feather Monarch? But, serves them right. The few fiery crystal cultivators that were not dead were also part of the fiery crystal cultivator. They attacked the fiery crystal cultivator with palm after palm, tearing the fiery crystal cultivator into pieces. As for the immortal fire that was spat out, Su Fang's flesh fetus divine armor instantly turned into dust as she was blasted 10 feet away. Green Feather Monarch's eyebrows were burned off, and his skin was incinerated, revealing fresh red flesh. Terrifying, the immortal fire was too terrifying. Even Green Feather Monarch couldn't resist it, and it was just a spark. If it wasn't for the fiery crystal cultivator's destruction, the two of them might have ended up in a half-dead state. Green Feather Monarch ignored his injuries and spat out a green demonic aura that wrapped around Su Fang. They flashed towards the mirror together. A heart flowed out from the fiery crystal cultivator's fragment. Senior. Just as they were about to fly into the mirror, The Great Perfection stage ability was paying attention to the crystal cultivator chasing after them. However, he found a heart rolling beside the shredded fiery crystal cultivator. Green Feather Monarch grabbed another demonic aura and grabbed at the heart. The heart landed firmly in Su Fang's hand, and the spark of the heart extinguished. Swish! A human and a demon rushed into the crystal mirror. All movement disappeared. Su Fang and Green Feather Monarch felt the world turn silent. Crystal light flashed in front of their eyes, and then different colored portals appeared in front of them. One of the flame portals was the closest to them. Taking advantage of the shuttling power, the two of them entered the flame portal. Whoosh! Blinding light flashed in front of their eyes, and then they heard the sound of burning flames. When they opened their eyes, they saw a world of flames in front of them. The world was burning. The flames formed waves of fire, and one wave rolled over another. Save me! Qi tore apart the sea of flames in front of them. Within the sea of flames, a cultivator was being burned by the flames. He was painfully turning into dust as he cried for help. Flight Attendant Elder. Su Fang smiled happily when he saw the fiery face. That was because that person was the Flight Attendant Elder. He probably didn't expect that he would end up dying in this sea of flames. Within the burning flames, many fiery people were forming. 2 more humans have entered. Slaves, capture them. Someone suddenly spoke from the depths of the sea. The voice was like a revival decree. Countless fiery people formed in the sea. So on the other side of the crystal mirror, there were still living cultivators. And they shouldn't be mortals, but immortals. Let's go. The 2 of them had no intention of saving the Flight Attendant Elder, and they couldn't save him anyway. They turned and ran toward the crystal mirror. No, this time it wasn't a crystal mirror, but a flame mirror. It seemed that the world was different, and the mirror portals were different as well. They couldn't care less about that. This flame world was too dangerous. Only death awaited them here. A large number of fiery people were chasing them from behind. The 2 of them entered the flame mirror, and everything calmed down. There were no more burning flames, only a large number of different colored, cold, mirror portals. The familiar crystal mirror was at the front, and it was also the closest portal. The Xianjia Gate is strange. Green Feather King was also horrified. This was the second time he had such an expression. The first time was when he had been incinerated by a primordial sage. We have no choice. Su Fang looked behind him. His perfect hearing caused his pupils to shrink. Several fiery people were chasing them through the mirror. Green Feather King had no choice. The crystal mirror was in front of them, and they couldn't go back. If they went back, they would definitely be surrounded. They could only casually choose one of the other portals above to avoid the fiery people. Whoosh! The 2 of them soared into the sky and found a very ordinary mirror portal. Su Fang sensed a trace of an aura that surprised him. He immediately led the way through the portal. The fiery people chased after them, and they also entered the portal. In an instant, the fiery heat disappeared, and they found themselves in a cold passage filled with ice. Creak! Cold qi came from all directions. Su Fang and Green Feather King were entangled by the cold qi, and it began to condense ice at an astonishing speed. Su Fang used his 9 yang true qi, and with the cold qi as the source, it turned into a field that enveloped him and Green Feather King. The cold qi field from the 9E9 transformations was truly incredible. It blocked the cold qi from outside, and the power of ice was unable to shake it. He didn't expect the cold qi from the mirror world to be stronger than the high-grade cold qi from a Dao item. All of this proved that a primordial sage was extraordinary. Whoosh! One fiery person after another charged forward. However, as soon as they entered the ice passage, not only were their movements restricted, but their speed was also frozen by the cold qi. The cold qi directly suppressed the burning flames. Strangely, the fiery people didn't seem to be afraid. They continued to charge at the 2. You're about to condense ice and you still dare to come? Green Feather King was furious. Thinking about how he had been burned before and how his body was now covered in blood, he immediately used the Jade Sky Cold Mysterious Art. With the help of Su Fang, he fused the 9 Cold Chi. Cold Chi formed an ice sword. Green Feather King grabbed it, and the ice sword slashed at a fiery person. It was smoothly cut in half, but it was quickly suppressed by the Cold Chi. After a few more slashes, more than a dozen fiery people were crushed. The ice sword fused with the 9 Cold Chi made it impossible for the fiery people to resist. Chapter 337. Kill to your heart's content. Kill to your heart's content. More than a dozen fiery men instantly crumbled, causing Green Feather Monarch to roar in satisfaction. No one wanted to be hunted down. Now, even Green Feather Monarch did not dare to imagine that he could kill the fiery men. Those hearts! Su Fang activated the 9 Cold Chi and infused it into the flesh fetus godly armor, which could block the Cold Chi in the air. He strode to the entrance of the tunnel and gathered the hearts from the shattered and extinguished pieces of the fiery man. Upon closer inspection, the hearts were similar to the one he had obtained before. These hearts were a little dark red, and the texture was a little like the ink-colored stone of the true chapter Proverbs. The hearts emitted a terrifying fiery power. If it was not for the cold air suppressing it, it would have turned into flames again. Each heart also had some indecipherable inscriptions. It was probably the language of the great world. Hoo-hoo! He thought he had solved the problem. Suddenly, the cold ice mirror door burned with fiery figures. The fiery men were shuttling through, and this time, there were many times more of them. Green Feather Monarch frowned. Enter the depths of the cold air space and use the natural cold air to suppress them. Putting away the hearts, Jiang Yi used the Jade Sky Cold Mystic Art and the 9 Cold Chi. With Green Feather Monarch's help, he formed a layer of cold air defense and quickly left the cold air tunnel. In an instant, a frozen world appeared in front of them. Besides the sounds of the fiery men chasing after them, no other sound could be heard in the cold air world. Fortunately, Green Feather Monarch and Su Fang had passed through the fiery men and were running on the icy ground. The same ink-colored stone as the true chapter Proverbs. This world was also very vast. When they turned to look at the ice tunnel, it was already very far away. Su Fang and Green Feather Monarch also took the time to rest and see if there were any special places in the cold airspace. Below the ice, there were some frozen forests and mountains. It was as if the cold power had frozen the world in an instant. And in some of the ice, Su Fang saw ink-colored stones that were about 1 foot in size. This stone was exactly the same as the one Jiang Yi had found beside the corpse of Elder Fengqing in the residence. It was also a material used by immortals to create the true chapter Proverbs. The other big shots that were trapped had also used ink-colored stones to create the true chapter Proverbs to lure cultivators into the immortal's door. He took out the ink-colored stone piece that he had bought from Qian Huanyan the first time and compared it with the ink-colored stones in the ice layer. Indeed, the material was exactly the same. Suddenly, he pounded his fist and took out the dozen or so hearts of the flaming giants. After careful comparison, he found that the flaming giants' hearts were also made of black stones. His curiosity attracted Green Feather King's attention. This gem isn't simple. It's not very hard, but it seems to have the ability to seal true chi and transmit energy. Furthermore, it's not easy to freeze or incinerate. Furthermore, in this Xianjia Gate, some powerful figure used it to control flame people and carve a mysterious true seal. But why did the purple chi Dharma spirit react to this black stone piece, but not to the other black stone pieces? Your quick truth incantation was refined by that Vice City Lord. He is an immortal, while the other ink-colored stone tablets were refined by ordinary cultivators. Naturally, they are completely different. Moreover, this ink-colored stone tablet may contain some kind of special power. Why don't you break it to see what's going on? To break the inky stone. Su Fang was still somewhat reluctant. On the other hand, since he was trapped in Xianjia's gate, what was the use of obtaining treasures? Thus, he condensed his sword energy and slashed fiercely at the center of the black stone. Chi. The inky stone tablet really wasn't sturdy. Under Su Fang's strongest attack, it broke from the center. At this moment, even Green Feather King's eyes widened as he stared at the inky stone tablet. After breaking it, the inky stone tablet was still the same as before. The break was bright, especially at the center, where traces of inky spirit chi were surging out. The black-yellow origin spirit hastily said, "Master, this is stone essence chi. It is natural spirit chi. If this stone tablet passes another 10,000 years, it may form a true stone spirit. So it's natural earth essence chi. That immortal city lord must have poured his energy into it. After a long time, the stone tablet absorbed the essence of heaven and earth, fusing with the energy sealed inside, causing the stone tablet to form stone essence chi." Green Feather King instantly understood. We can't waste this kind of energy. The inky stone essence chi was about to dissipate under the pressure of the cold chi. Su Fang opened his palm and inhaled the strands of stone essence chi. He felt this chi enter his body and quickly fuse with his pure yang energy. The flame people are chasing us. If we don't get rid of them, we won't be able to go anywhere. After resting for a while, at least 40 flame people were approaching from afar. They were less than 100 meters away and were chasing over the ice mountain. The flame people's bodies were covered in ice. Their insides were fire while their outside was ice. Even so, they still wouldn't let Green Feather King and Su Fang go. Su Fang had just finished absorbing the precious stone essence energy and was about to head deeper with Green Feather King when he suddenly felt several icy lights flashing across the ice beneath his feet. They wanted to cut through the ice. Crack! Not far away, the ice layer suddenly shattered. Frozen people appeared under the ice. Each one was completely similar to an ice sculpture. The only difference was that they were alive and had consciousness. They stood up from under the ice. In an instant, the surrounding ice began to awaken. Some of them stared at the flame people, while others locked onto Su Fang and Green Feather King. Crystal City had crystal cultivators. Flame World had flame people. The frozen world has frozen people again. What was going on? We can only fight, and we still need your special cold chi. This king is confident he can last for a while, but I wonder how powerful these flame people are. Soon, the two were surrounded. Green Feather King knew there was no way out, so he activated the Jade Sky Cold Mysterious Art. Su Fang looked around. There were more than 50 flame people. Their numbers were shocking, and each of them had the strength of a human cultivator. Only the special 9-in cold chi could deal with them. Without it, even if Green Feather King used his true body, he wouldn't be able to deal with a few flame people. I don't believe we can't kill these monsters. He absorbed more 9-in cold chi from the Origin Sacred Realm and then fused it with the Jade Sky Cold Mysterious Art. He then gave the fused power to Green Feather King. This special cold chi turned into an ice sword under Green Feather King's hand seals. To be able to condense a divine ability under the pressure of the immortal gate was already a height that cultivators of a small world couldn't achieve. Swish! Swish! Green Feather King protected Su Fang and let Su Fang condense the cold chi rune. He held the ice sword chi and flew across the sky. As a flame people flew over, the sword chi stabbed into the flame people. Boom! The sword chi wasn't shocking, and most of it was still shackled by the immortal gate. However, the 9-in cold chi's special nature made the ice sword chi indestructible. The sword chi pierced through the flame people's chest, creating a large hole. However, the flame people didn't shatter and continued to charge forward. Green Feather King took a step forward and swung the ice sword chi at the flame people's neck with his right arm. The sword chi was sturdy, and with Green Feather King's innate strength as a rock, the flame people collapsed into pieces. Dong! Among the pieces, a frozen heart rolled to Su Fang's side. Ice heart, what a powerful ice essence! Who would have thought that the frozen man had a frozen heart, just like the flaming man's heart of fire? He grabbed the heart of ice in his hand, and in an instant, the frost chi that surpassed the frost chi in this frost chi space spread out from the heart of ice and fused with the frost chi of 9 that was surging out of his body. No, it was the cold energy of the ice-sealed world that had automatically fused with the cold energy of the 9. So I can absorb energy from my heart. Furthermore, the heart is the source of energy for freezing energy. It's like cultivating a gold core. This is a good opportunity to increase my strength. His heartbeat became more and more frightening. He stared at the frozen heart and took out a fire heart. 2 essences, one cold and one hot, came from the 2 hearts. It was as if the heart of fire contained the essence of fire, while the heart of ice contained the essence of cold. It just so happened that he was consuming a lot of energy at this moment. After thinking for a while, he condensed the cold chi rune while absorbing the essence of the fire heart and the ice heart. Whoosh whoosh, wisps of fire essence gushed out from the heart of fire, while wisps of silver-white cold essence gushed out from the heart of ice. The 2 essences merged into his palm. When they came into contact with the pure yang energy, the 2 incompatible essences merged perfectly, becoming a part of his pure yang energy. The pure yang energy that had merged with the 2 essences began to fill up bit by bit. After all, it was a high-level energy. Just absorbing a bit of pure yang energy caused a clear change in his body. Haha, good, your aura is surging. Now this king won't have to worry about exhausting his energy. The Green Feather King was controlling his ice sword chi to block the ice men. But his attention was drawn to Su Fang's aura. Seeing him absorb the heart of ice and heart of fire, he was filled with disbelief. Following this, he condensed an icy sword chi and held his sword with both hands. The 2 swords intertwined and slashed out a simple and direct sword chi aura, hitting the frozen people. As the sword chi passed by, large amounts of ice shards fell to the ground. The heart of ice and heart of fire had already left Su Fang's hands. They floated in front of Su Fang. At the same time, they released blazing energy and cold energy. Su Fang's pure yang energy once more surged, and the speed at which Su Fang absorbed the 2 hearts also increased. Gradually, Su Fang felt that he was no longer bound by the ice world's shackles. He could breathe as he pleased. With one breath, he could directly absorb the ice world's high-level ice chi into his body and then refine it with his pure yang energy. It was like absorbing natural chi in the air. He didn't know if it was because his body had gotten used to the ice world's aura, but Su Fang found that he was no longer bound by the ice world's shackles. He could unleash his energy and use his pores to absorb the ice world's aura. Senior, collect more ice men's hearts. In just a moment, the heart of ice and heart of fire essence had been completely absorbed by Su Fang. Boom! Boom! Green Feather King's great Ping God Force erupted. With the support of cold energy, he struck out with a terrifying strength that reached the Calamity Realm. In particular, the 9 cold energy was thick and heavy. With just a few sword strikes, he shattered several frozen men. At the same time, he waved his hand and grabbed the 3 heart of ice. Su Fang took out 3 more heart of fire. He let the 6 hearts float in front of him and absorbed their essence together. Su Fang also took out the spirit flower from before and absorbed the spirit energy within it. As a result, Su Fang was absorbing an astonishing amount of spirit energy every second and every minute. Furthermore, each kind of energy was the quintessence of the quintessence. He didn't need to cultivate, fuse, or purify the impurities within the energy. Bang! In just a moment, a burst of energy erupted from Su Fang's body. The energy spread in all directions, shattering many ice particles. He broke through again. Green Feather King was delighted to see Su Fang break through the first undying stage and step into the second undying stage. The stronger Su Fang was, the more likely they would be to leave the Xianjia Gate. Su Fang didn't have much time. He used the 100 acupoints finger art as usual to guide the advancement energy to attack his body. He focused on absorbing all kinds of essence energy. P.S. In order to thank brothers for their support, it will explode at the end of this month. Chapter 338. Pow. Pow. The Frost Men surrounded Green Feather King and Su Fang. They were less than 10 meters away from them. They breathed out cold air that could freeze everything, and then strode forward, causing the ice to tremble. Frost chi and sword light slashed their bodies, causing ice particles to fly everywhere. Some of the Frost Men were about to be cut in half. Puppets kill. The battle continued for nearly half a day. In the distance, flames suddenly soared into the sky from the icy passage. Green Feather King and Su Fang couldn't help but look over. Dozens of flame men were charging over, and among them was a flame giant that was 10 meters tall. The Flame King of the Flame Gate is here. What was even more unexpected was that the surrounding Frost Men also began to speak. Green Feather King and Su Fang's ears went numb. It turned out that the Frost Men not only had consciousness, they also had human thoughts. It was just that they didn't have flesh and blood bodies, so they didn't fear pain. Flame King, this king's territory is not a place for you to be impudent. A domineering voice came from the depths of the Frost Chi world. The king is here. When the Frost Men heard the voice, they all released their auras. In the distance, Flame King Thunder roared, "Frost King, you and I have fought for so many years. Today, I'm not here to cause trouble for you. Those two lifeforms belong to this king." "What belongs to you?" "Coming to this king's territory means that it belongs to this king. This king also needs blood to reconstruct his body and break free from the Frost Seal. Your wishful thinking is actually on this king's head." The mysterious Frost King mocked. "Senior, we are in trouble. It seems that Crystal City, Flame Space, and Frost Chi World all have experts guarding them." Su Fang was inwardly startled. "Since we have been forced to this point, we have no way out. Let's kill first. If we really can't, you and I will hide in your primordial sage realm and protect ourselves first." Green Feather King had already thought of a way out. Primordial Sage Realm, it was indeed Su Fang's only life-saving treasure. He believed that no one, not even the power of the Xianjia Gate, could shake the Primordial Sage Realm. In fact, it was because of this that he dared to take the risk to enter the Xianjia Gate. This was his last chance to save his life. Junior can possess an unlimited amount of 9 cold chi to help Senior deal with the Flame Men and Ice Men. Prepare yourself. When the time comes, this king will release his true body and kill to his heart's content. After 10,000 years, this king really is itching. Green Feather King furiously shouted. Not only did he use the Jade Sky Cold Mysterious Art, but his own monster chi also began to burn. Coupled with the cold chi runes released by Su Fang, Green Feather King completely displayed the aura of the Big Goblin. Although it was not worth mentioning in this world of cold air, it was not easy to be crushed. Swish, swish. Dozens of Frost Men kept spewing out cold chi as they closed in on Green Feather King. Green Feather King controlled his sword chi to attack the Frost Men, forcing them to stop. Not far away, a few more frozen people formed. What was even more terrifying was that the Fiery King and his subordinates were closing in on them. They were only about 100 meters away, and the Fiery King's aura was even more terrifying. Hua! A beam of cold light suddenly struck from the frozen ground behind him like a bolt of cold lightning. Amidst the cold light, a frozen man appeared. It should be the Frozen King. It looked like a woman with a small figure. Once she appeared, the surrounding Frost Men immediately rushed over like an army. No wonder you could come to the fiery space from Crystal City alive. Now you are in this king's world of cold air. So you are a descendant of the rock race. The Frost King's cold gaze landed on Green Feather King. There are also descendants of the rock race in this small world. Unfortunately, the rock race can only be suppressed by the Xianjia Gate here. Frost King, didn't you notice that the rock race's little demon has an extraordinary cold chi? With a mortal realm cultivation, it can resist the freezing power of your space. The approaching flame man laughed proudly. So what? Are you up to no good again? The rock race is born with godly strength. Their blood is astonishing and contains more life force than humans. You and I can split it in half, devour its blood to recover our bodies. With a body, you and I will have a chance to survive and leave this Xianjia Gate. Your plan is very good. This is my territory. I will share the prey with you. Why don't you share the humans you captured with me? Your fiery gate is at the edge, and the crystal gate is the easiest for cultivators to enter. Only 1 or 2 cultivators can enter my frost gate in 10,000 years. I will give them to you. Fiery King, you can't get any benefit. Puppets, chase them out. The Frost King immediately waved her hand. She waved her hand domineeringly, and the surrounding ice started to change. It turned into a huge ice mountain and pressed down on the Flame Man along with the Frost Men. The Frost King was too terrifying. This world of cold air was equivalent to her godly image Dharma Land. Seeing this, Su Fang understood that he couldn't leave the cold air space. In the end, he still had to fight the Frost King. He condensed more frost runes and gave them to the Green Feather King. He continued to absorb the power of the Fire Heart and Ice Heart. Su Fang felt that his state was getting more and more wonderful. Although he was only at the undying second layer, he was no longer shackled by the aura of the Xianjia Gate after absorbing all kinds of high-level auras. The spiritual energy of the spirit flower was incredible. It constantly poured spiritual energy into Su Fang, and it also had the miraculous effect of marrow cleansing. Su Fang, who had just broken through to the undying second layer, felt like he was about to break through again. In fact, in the energy space of the Xianjia Gate, any mortal cultivator could absorb high-level energy. It was comparable to marrow cleansing and enlightenment. Su Fang was absorbing the power of marrow cleansing at all times, and then under the high-level energy, it was like enlightenment. Only then could he break through. Boom! Around him, several more frozen people were shattered under the Green Feather King's sword. Limbs and fragments were everywhere. After grabbing the Ice Heart, the Green Feather King was not polite. He formed a frost sword net around him. The frozen people used their divine power to hack at the sword net, shaking the Green Feather King until he was gasping for breath. If this continued, even with the 9 cold chi, he would not be able to hold on. Fortunately, the Green Feather King was an eternal big goblin. He had amazing fighting experience, and he could deal with the frozen people who could not use their magical powers. Pung! Who knew? Another burst of energy rushed out of Su Fang's body. The energy showed 3 levels. Undying third layer too fast. It had only been a day at most, and Su Fang had broken through from the undying first layer to the undying third layer. Su Fang hurriedly used the 100 acupoints finger technique to attack the 2 yang meridians, as well as the divine aperture and purple chi law spirit. He gave more condensed runes to the Green Feather King and began to concentrate on attacking his body, striving to reach a normal state in all aspects this time. Not far away, the shaking iceberg shackled many flaming people inside. What a smelly woman! If you have the ability, go fight in this king's territory. This king will remember this enmity. One day you will fall into this king's hands. The iceberg's divine power was boundless. Not only did it shackle dozens of flaming people, but it also shattered the flaming king's aura. In the end, he stepped on a flaming sword chi and left dejectedly. Oh no! The flaming king leaving was not a good thing. The Green Feather King could not laugh. Sure enough, on top of the ice mountain, the Frozen King led dozens of frozen men to attack them. The Green Feather King glanced at the cultivating Su Fong and clenched his teeth. He once again absorbed the rune's cold chi to increase his fighting strength. Little Pring Yao, this king knows you are not giving up, but you are destined to fall here. However, this king can make a deal with you. After a few breaths, the Frozen King stepped on the iceberg and asked the Green Feather King. Let's hear the deal. The Green Feather King waited calmly. The Frozen King said, This king only wants half of your blood and the body of that human boy next to you. As long as this king recovers his physical body, he will take you with him and leave this damned Xianjia gate. How about it? At this time, Su Fong also heard this, and her eyes suddenly lit up. He secretly transmitted, Senior, why don't you take the opportunity to learn more about Xianjia Gate from her? It's best if you can find out how to leave. You are smart this time. You have to learn the cunning of our Yao race. The Green Feather King secretly smiled in response. Then he said to the Frozen King, You can really leave Xianjia Gate, but I have never heard of anyone leaving Xianjia Gate. What is the origin of this Xianjia Gate? The Frozen King murmured, Xianjia Gate is a peerless Tao artifact. How can you small world cultivators know how powerful a Tao artifact is? Even if your small world also has a Tao artifact, none of them can compare to 1% of Xianjia Gate. This king was an immortal before, but he still couldn't fight against Xianjia Gate. As for its origin, this king also doesn't know because it is too powerful. Moreover, the great world is infinitely big, and the world I live in doesn't know anything about it. In your eyes, it is naturally impossible to leave Xianjia Gate, but this king is a supreme immortal. As long as I recover my physical body, I will have a chance to leave. Xianjia Gate has been in the mortal world for nearly 100,000 years. How many cultivators have entered to search for treasures? But no one has ever left alive. The number of cultivators who have died is in the tens of millions. How can they leave alive? How can mortal cultivators come to the frozen door alive? Even if they can enter the flaming door, they will be burned to ashes. In the past 100,000 years, you little demon and that puny human are the fourth and fifth mortal cultivators to come here. Those people all died here and turned into immortal ice, so mortals can't leave here. I am an immortal and have immortal divine abilities. I have been the king of the frozen door for 100,000 years, so I have long grasped some secrets to leaving. The secret lies in one of the many portals outside. All right, now that I have said so much, can you submit to me? Submit. This king is a descendant of the Pring race. How can I submit so casually? The Green Feather King revealed his true face. All right, little demon. I have said so much, but you still don't understand. Then this king will imprison you and slowly absorb your blood. He will seize your body. The Frozen King didn't expect to be tricked by a little demon. He was so angry that his body began to emit creaking sounds. Kill. With a shout, dozens of ice men pounced on the Green Feather King. Extreme demonic transformation, Great Pring spreads its wings. The Green Feather King was like a fat sheep, while in front of him was a pack of fiendish wolves. He suddenly opened his mouth, and his body began to burn with dazzling light. With a bang, his demonic chi exploded, and his human form vanished. Amidst the explosion of demonic chi, a terrifying giant green-feathered demon that was 30 meters tall appeared in the ice-sealed world. The Green Feather King's true body spread along with his demonic chi, flapping his wings. On the head of the golden-winged Kuan, its eyes were like stars. When its golden wings spread out, it seemed as if they were going to tear the space apart. As it flapped its wings slightly, some of the ice was rolled up into granules. Its unfurled sharp claws were enough to make hundreds of beasts tremble in fear. The Green Feather King's demonic chi soared into the sky. With a flap of his wings, he could travel 10,000 miles in an instant. Chapter 339. Su Fong was deeply shocked by Green Feather King's true body. Back then, when he had used Primordial Chaos Sage to suppress them, he hadn't sensed Green Feather King's strength. Only now did he sense how powerful a rock monster was. "Senior, I have an endless supply of 9 cold chi." Su Fong had already stopped cultivating. He absorbed the 9 cold chi into his body. Let's see how this king deals with them. Green Feather King's golden wings flapped, and astral winds blew over a dozen frozen men. He sucked in, and a mass of green light condensed and merged with the 9 cold chi. Who? The ice giant rushed over. At this moment, Green Feather King spat out a beam of demonic light that contained the cold energy of the 9. As Green Feather King's body swayed, the beam of demonic light shot out from left to right, covering a distance of 30 meters. The ice on the ground was sent flying by the demonic light, striking the frozen men. Because the demonic light had merged with the 9 cold chi, the frozen men shattered one by one. Just as Green Feather King had said before, he had killed them to his heart's content. With his strength combined with Su Fong's, he wasn't shackled in this world of cold chi. With a cracking sound, Green Feather King soared into the air. The cold chi space twisted, and the area around Green Feather King instantly froze. But this freezing power didn't come from the world of cold chi, but from the 9 cold chi. The cold chi twisted once more. Green Feather King's speed was shocking. In a breath's time, he flew above the frozen men. His sharp claws were also frozen by the 9 cold chi. He clawed at the frozen men, tearing them to pieces. The frozen men's advantage was ice, just like the flame men's advantage was fire. Su Fong's control over fire energy wasn't outstanding, but he had the most ordinary 9 cold chi in his body. He could condense it into ice and fight the frozen men head-on. In addition, the 9 cold chi had also merged with some 9 yang energy, reaching the most mysterious state of yin and yang energy. The ice condensed was naturally as hard as a magic treasure. Green Feather King was also from the Pung clan. He was gifted with godly strength. His demonic body was hard, his claws could cut through metal, and his demonic chi soared into the sky. Together with Su Fong's power, he was not shackled by this world of cold chi. He could erupt with the power of a peak giant in a small world. Your cultivation is not bad. Today I've finally seen the innate ability of the Pung race. However, the puppets you killed were mostly transformed from mortal cultivators. As for me, I'm an immortal. I'll let you see the divine might of an immortal. Although my magic power is greater than the restriction, killing a little demon like you isn't a problem. The Frost King was here. She stepped on the moving iceberg. She didn't want to use her own aura to deal with Green Feather King. Instead, she wanted to use the power of the iceberg to crush Green Feather King. To kill someone, that was the only thought in Frost King's mind. So what if it's a mountain? Green Feather King didn't have to expend much effort to kill a large number of frozen men. His body gradually rose into the air until he was almost at the same height as Frost King. Boom-like teleportation, the cold air twisted crazily. Green Feather King arrived in front of the iceberg in the blink of an eye. A pair of golden claws tore a big hole in the iceberg. The iceberg shook. Green Feather King's eyes were burning with golden demonic aura. He had the ability to tear the iceberg apart. Green Feather King is so powerful. Back then, he was suppressed by the immortal Sealing Sect. Su Fong saw hope. He couldn't help but imagine how intense the battle between Green Feather King and the immortal Sealing Sect was. You're using your innate brute force to fight me. Frost King was so shocked that she fell down. Her frozen body couldn't allow her expression to be clear. She suddenly grabbed, and a long ice belt appeared in midair. Bang! The green light suddenly twisted and pounced over. The golden claws grabbed the ice belt, wanting to instantly crush it and kill Frost King. However, Frost King's strength was too terrifying. The ice belt didn't move at all. She stared at the ice defense formed by Green Feather King's body and was shocked. What kind of cold air is this? Why is it so terrifying? It's as if it came from the underworld. This isn't a power that the mortal world can have. This is a power that can kill you. Green Feather King's golden wings flapped again. Puff, puff. Waves of cold air and demonic wind struck Frost King. Green Feather King's attacks were too tyrannical. The demonic race's divine power, speed, and strength were all greater than humans. However, Frost King didn't move under the attacks of the demonic wind. Green Feather King's attacks didn't have the slightest bit of destructive power. How about it? Frost King arrogantly asked. This is the power of an immortal. Can you move it? So what if you're an immortal? You're still trapped in the immortal ceiling sect, a puppet. If you really had a divine ability, you would have left long ago, mocked Green Feather King. Humph! That one sentence hit Frost King's sore spot. She suddenly grabbed the ice belt and swung her arm. The ice belt was caught by Green Feather King, and it suddenly shook like a spring and sent Green Feather King flying. Pow! In an instant, as Frost King's killing intent burned, the ice belt seemed to come to life. It shook the air and struck Green Feather King like a shadow. The ice belt was so fast that it couldn't be seen. Even the giant Green Feather King couldn't resist the ice belt's power. The ice on his body fell off, and his demonic chi was shackled by the cold air. As expected, without that strange cold air, you would be suppressed by spatial energy. You mortal cultivators entering the immortal ceiling sect are the same as entering a prison. Who told you not to be honest? Frost King laughed. Because Green Feather King was shackled by the cold air, his movements and speed were affected. His attacks weren't as fierce as before. Bang! Bang! The ice belt swung again. It could be long or short, and it was like a shadow. It shook Green Feather King's body to constantly shrink. He also began to vomit blood. The difference? No matter how hard Su Fong and Green Feather King tried, they weren't Frost King's match. If Frost King hadn't been frozen and his immortal body wasn't restricted, Green Feather King probably wouldn't have been able to block one move. Frost King pointed, and a large amount of ice belt extended, cutting off Green Feather King's retreat. I overestimated you. In the great world, your Pung race is a major power. But in the mortal world, I can kill you if I want to. Your Pung race can even find me. Your Pung race's blood isn't bad. It can let me recover my physical body and leave this damned place. You think I'm afraid of you? Pung King was a big goblin of the Pung race. His eyes immediately shot out waves of demonic light containing 9 een cold air. They were like 2 demonic stars falling from the 9 heavens, burning Frost King. Bang! Green Feather King had been secretly accumulating power. This attack forced Frost King to take a step back. He wanted to tear Green Feather King apart. Suppress. A large amount of ice belt followed Frost King's finger. Rustle. The ice belt seemed to be magnetic. No matter how Green Feather King flapped his wings, released his demonic chi, or used his claws to attack the ice belt, he couldn't escape. Green Feather King was trapped. The Grand Big Goblin couldn't even break the ice belt. Now, he was like a rooster running for his life. As for the icebound king, he had a cold and smug look in his eyes. Only now did he realize that it was too late to save his own life. His hands formed a series of illusions, and no matter how Green Feather King attacked, the ice belts were completely ineffective. His golden wings were quickly bound. Bang! Several breaths later a large amount of ice belt finally condensed, wrapping Green Feather King tightly like a dumpling. I won't let you be sealed in ice and become a demonic rock. Your blood, combined with that brat's body, will allow me to once again possess a body of flesh and blood. In a flash, layers of snowflakes fluttered. Frost King got closer and closer to the immobile Green Feather King. His palm reached for Green Feather King's heart. roar. While Green Feather King seemed to be roaring with all his might, the Ice Seal King didn't seem to care at all. But at this moment, a figure suddenly shot out from Green Feather King's monster energy. And Frost King suddenly had a bad feeling. Bang! The human-shaped sword chi stabbed Frost King. So what if she was an immortal from a great world? She was still a puppet sealed in ice by the immortal Jia Gate. The human-shaped sword chi was Heaven Monarch's soul sword, a Tao artifact from a great world. The Tao artifact's power was unparalleled. This was why Green Feather King dared to fight Frost King head-on and wasn't afraid of being suppressed in the end. Heaven Monarch's soul sword sent Frost King flying. A large amount of ice shards scattered. Tao artifact, damn it. Frost King's petite body had many layers of ice shaved off. Her chest had many cracks. These cracks even extended to her face. Alright, Senior Pring King. At this moment, Su Fong jumped up. Fire cloud wings appeared on his back. In this cold space, his speed was shocking. Humph! Green Feather King struggled with his wings. Pa pa pa. The ice shards broke, and his wings moved again. You hurt me. You did well. But you forgot that I have a body of ice, not flesh. There is no pain to speak of. Frost King stopped and breathed in the cold air. There were signs of ice forming on the broken pieces. This king doesn't have tender feelings for the fairer sex. Green Feather King suddenly flapped his wings and transformed into his human form. He controlled Heaven Monarch's soul sword to slash at Frost King. Wait, we can make a deal. Unexpectedly, Frost King was afraid at this moment. She was not afraid of pain, but she was afraid of death. Alright, we can talk. Heaven Monarch's soul sword pointed his sword at Frost King. Green Feather King and Su Fong stepped back, wanting to see what Frost King wanted to say. Your goal is the same as mine, isn't it? Both of you want to leave the Xianjia Gate, said the Frost King. And you know nothing about the Xianjia Gate. But I've learned most of the Xianjia Gate in the past 100,000 years. Without me, you won't be able to leave this place. Even if you leave the cold space I'm in, once you enter one of those portals, you'll still die. We can cooperate, but you have to take out something worth trusting. What is the space outside Xianjia Gate? I have been there before. Outside the lower-level portals, there are many mortal world cultivators who entered Xianjia Gate by mistake. They are shackled by the great world's immortals and can't live for more than 1,000 years. Even if they can live for a few thousand years, they have to hide somewhere and wait for death. I am different. Although I am also shackled here, I am at least an immortal and the king of this space. Aren't you curious why there are so many portals outside? Of course. Actually, the portals are the spaces within Xianjia's gate. Each space is connected, and each space's location and size are different. The space where Crystal City is located is the largest, and also the outermost. I've been to the other portals time and time again. Now, there are all kinds of suppressed immortals in the other portals. Some of them have become puppets and some are just trapped in a certain space. If you don't have my fingerprint, you won't be a match for those immortals with just this Tao treasure. How do you plan to leave Xianjia Gate? Green Feather King and Su Fong had secretly communicated. It seemed like they really had to rely on Frost King, because what she said was very trustworthy. If they were careless and entered the space where those immortals were trapped, wouldn't they die? Chapter 340. The cracks on the Frost King's body slowly healed. I am the ruler of a spatial zone and have the ability to enter other spatial zones. After so many years of understanding, there is a door that seems to cause some strange aura to appear. Unfortunately, I am frozen and cannot leave this cold space for a long time. Otherwise, I would have completely melted and died. Otherwise, I would have gone to that door to take a look. The Green Feather King and Su Fong thought of Crystal City at the same time. Back then, they had barged into the inner city and ended up being chased by Crystal City cultivators. Crystal City cultivators would lose their abilities and shatter when they left the city. It turned out that the Frost King could not leave this cold space for a long time. It was very likely that this cold space had shackled her everything. Without the support of the cold air, her frozen body would melt. Since the Xianjia door has a door to enter, it naturally has a way to leave. This Tao artifact will occasionally shoot out air currents, sweeping some substances out of the Tao artifact. Perhaps we can find the center of the air currents and leave the Tao artifact along with the air current. I am sincere in cooperating, right? If not, I will tell you and guide you. By the time you find that door, you will have already died halfway. The Frost King's face turned pale, but her immortal aura did not diminish at all. This king will cooperate with you. The Green Feather King nodded and immediately absorbed Heaven Monarch's soul sword into his body. I suddenly have an idea. Su Fang called the Green Feather King to the side and said something. The Green Feather King's aura burst out from time to time until his eyes were filled with craftiness. He came in front of the Frost King. There is no problem in cooperating, but you have to help us. Go to Crystal City and suppress a mortal domain cultivator for us. The Frost King did not think much and agreed. No problem. You can rest assured and help this king recover his physical body. If he cannot recover his physical body, this king will not be able to help. The Green Feather King and Su Fang looked at each other. The Green Feather King flipped his palm, and a rune containing devil aura appeared. I accidentally obtained a portion of True Demon's blood. Do you dare to fuse with it? True Demon's blood. The lowest true demon of the devil race still thinks that you have heavenly demon's blood. The Frost King stared at the devil aura with a cautious gaze. Once I fuse with the true demon's blood, I will become a true demon of the devil race and will not be able to step into the righteous Tao. We cannot give our blood to you. The Xianjia door is suppressing this king's life essence. If I give my blood to you, I will be dead. That brat beside you, why are you protecting him? Unexpectedly, the frozen king suddenly turned his attention to Su Fang. What do you mean? It's very simple. You're a Yao, so why are you protecting a human? Why don't you give him to me? That way, I can perfectly seize his essence blood, and you'll have one less burden. A woman's heart is the most poisonous. The silent Su Fang sneered coldly in his heart palpitating. Fortunately, I thought of this in advance and gave him some benefits first. Green Feather King immediately refused. He's the descendant of my old friend. How can I give him to you? Furthermore, the blood of a true devil is something everyone in this minor world yearns for even in their dreams. I heard that after refining it, you can become a supreme true devil, becoming immortal. Once you enter the devil race, the blood of the devil race is already extremely powerful. With your frozen body, ordinary essence blood won't be able to help you recover your physical body quickly. If you don't want to, this king can only rely on himself to find a way out. And don't forget that the other trapped kings also want to recover their physical bodies. The capriciousness of demons was displayed vividly on Green Feather King. Fine, true demon blood is fine. The Frost King had no other choice. He opened his hand. Swoosh. The rune that sealed the blood of the true demon fell into her palm. The Frost King helplessly jumped onto the ice mountain. The ice mountain began to transform, and a spell altar appeared. Brat, even this king has to admire your cunning. Let her refine the true demon blood and become a true devil. Then you can use the true devil blood plate to control her. You can also use the ghost true devil to restrain her abilities. After all, this true demon blood came from the blood ghost true devil. Green Feather King and Su Fang glanced at each other from a distance before coming to rest. Green Feather King was full of praise for Su Fang. He wanted to use the true demon blood to shackle the Frost King. Once the Frost King recovered his physical body, he would be able to use divine abilities and condense true qi. Helping her would be like releasing a tiger back to the mountain. But the true demon blood was different. This true demon blood came from the blood ghost true devil. Anyone who merged with it would be controlled by the blood ghost true devil. Adding on the true devil blood plate, it shouldn't be a problem to deal with an immortal who had just recovered her physical body and had been sealed for 100,000 years. At the very least, he could guarantee that she wouldn't be able to kill Green Feather King and Su Fong. If exalted transcendent Yuezhan falls under our control, it would be incredible. Be careful, I can't believe you're still plotting against the Celestial Sealing Sect. Junior was forced to enter the Celestial Sealing Sect because of Prince Shui. He's a disciple of the Tao Sovereign. In the future, he'll definitely do everything in his power to get rid of me. Besides, I still haven't found the Violet Chi Law Spirit, so I can't just leave the Celestial Sealing Sect. If I had an elder in the sect to protect me, Prince Shui wouldn't be able to do anything to me. Running into exalted transcendent Yuezhan in the Celestial Sealing Sect is the will of the heavens. When this king was sealed, exalted transcendent Yuezhan was already an elder. This king's strength is also very frightening. If he returns to the Celestial Sealing Sect, he'll definitely be one of the most powerful figures in the sect. With his protection, Prince Shui won't be able to do anything to you. There are no big shots in the Celestial Sealing Sect. Junior has to make good use of all his abilities. If I really leave the Celestial Sealing Sect, I have to think of ways to deal with the Celestial Sealing Sect and take back the Violet Chi Law Spirit. If I have an elder like exalted transcendent Yuezhan, it won't be difficult to take back the Violet Chi Law Spirit. The two of them were secretly discussing how to suppress exalted transcendent Yuezhan. Su Fong was deeply aware of his current situation. Once he left the Celestial Sealing Sect, he would have to face Prince Shui's threat. He had to think of a way to deal with all of this. Everything seemed to be predestined. Exalted transcendent Yuezhan, an elder, was shackled here. It was equivalent to a ferocious beast without its fangs. And Su Fong could get the Frost King to help suppress this beast. Why not? Green Feather King took a while to recover. The Celestial Sealing Sect was in big trouble. Who told them to encounter such a terrifying enemy like Su Fong? Zzz, devil flames rose from the iceberg in front of them. The devil flames melted some of the ice. The Frost King was like a lotus flower emerging from the water. She floated in the devil flames. Cold energy was constantly dissipating from her body, turning into steam or water droplets. Her body felt completely frozen. At this moment, the devil blood in the ice turned into countless roots, forming a human shape. The frozen body melted under the devil blood. One could clearly see the true devil blood beginning to grow flesh. Gradually, a devil flame burned on top of the Frost King's head. This devil flame turned into a horn. True devil, she was really about to become a true devil. Under the iceberg, Green Feather King was absorbing Su Fong's life pattern talisman and some pure yang energy to recover his strength. Su Fong went out to search, collecting the Ice Heart and Fire Heart that were killed by the Frost King or by the Fiery King's strength. Together with the Spirit Flower, the surrounding cold energy could also fuse with the Blue Sky Cold Mysterious Art and 9-Een energy to help Su Fong absorb all kinds of essences. In this world of ice and snow, an immortal, an eternal big goblin, and an immortal mortal were constantly improving their strength at their own pace. Pung! Several days later, Su Fong's body was in a torn and distorted state. A burst of energy burst out. A large amount of impurities overflowed from his skin and turned into fine powder. 4 layers of energy undying, 4 layers another breakthrough. This time, Su Fong was very calm. Because the breakthrough was within his expectations, everything was under his control. Using the 100 acupoints finger art, he attacked the 2 yang meridians, divine apertures and purple chi spirit again and again. After several breakthroughs, The dragon-subduing left arm and Su Fang's wood of the subduing dragon were now completely flawless. The Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda, the Flame God Mammoth, the Flame Cloud Spirit Gourd, the 13 Flame Crystal Golems, and the True Devil Blood Disc had all absorbed high-level quintessence and were undergoing transformations. The Super Strength God Palm and the Undying Golden Body have reached new heights, Yang Qi thought. Both of those divine abilities came from the gigantic Heavenly King body. I can't control even a 10,000th of the gigantic Heavenly King body, but I can control the Super Strength God Palm and the Undying Golden Body. Su Fang's body glowed with green light, and his blood energy surged. It was a very strange sight. As he made his breakthroughs, he secretly cultivated a variety of divine abilities and consummate art. From the Dragon Snake Codex to the Heaven Devil Codex and the House of Immortal Sealing, to the Heaven Devil Codex and Illusory Fire Cloud, to the gigantic Heavenly King body. In his previous breakthroughs, he hadn't cultivated any of the divine abilities. Now that he was in the 4th division of the Undying Realm, he was able to gain new enlightenment. For example, the fleshly embryo god armor was now even tougher than mid-grade treasured armor. He also cultivated the House of Immortal Sealing's Jade Heaven Frigid Profound Art, and of course, the Azure Fiend True Flame. I've finally broken free of my frozen body. Suddenly, a charming voice came from the horizon. The Ice Sealing King emerged from the flames of the ice mountain. She was no longer frozen, but rather a living, snow-white woman who pulsed with shocking devil energy. She wore a silver dress, making her the ruler of this region of frigid energy. But her fleshly body made her seem like a holy maiden made of ice and snow. This king's energy surpasses hers, King Greenfeather said. This king is confident in his ability to use Heavenly Lord's soul sword to deal with her. He rose to his feet with Su Fang. They flew towards the Ice Sealing King. Although Greenfeather King was confident in fighting the Ice Sealing King, Su Fang couldn't help but be cautious. Senior, you used 3 immortal stones to activate Heavenly Lord's soul sword. You only have 2 left. Why don't you ask the Ice Sealing King for some immortal stones? She doesn't know that Heavenly Lord's soul sword is activated with immortal stones. You and I have the same idea. This king also wants to get immortal stones from her. Greenfeather King laughed. I'll go suppress Exalted Manuesian now. You just need to follow my aura. You don't need to use any aura. The Ice Sealing King waved her hand, and an ice belt lifted Greenfeather King and Su Fang. She turned and flew towards the deep ice mirror passage. After passing through the ice realm, they returned to the strange space with countless overlapping doors. Swoosh! The 3 flew into the crystal mirror. Crystal City. The crystal light made Su Fang and Greenfeather King uncomfortable, but it didn't affect the Ice Sealing King at all. She looked at the center of the ruined city and the surroundings of the plaza. She didn't care about the crystal cultivators standing there. The king of Crystal City is also an immortal, but he has fused with the city. He's a puppet that doesn't want to leave the Xianjia Gate. Don't be afraid of him. The ice belt wrapped the 3 of them and flew through the air. Senior, we have to take Senior Li Ziqing, a rogue cultivator from the Wu Tan domain with us. He's the only one in the Xianjia Gate who doesn't have any ill intentions towards us. Furthermore, he helped us a lot. Su Fang secretly communicated with Greenfeather King. Chapter 341. Kid, you're smart enough to finish your apprenticeship. Greenfeather King smiled, as if he had seen through Su Fang. Senior, what do you mean? The latter was puzzled. Li Ziqing is a big shot, and his strength is about the same as Exalted Yuezhan. He also comes from Wu Tang World, and there is a sect called Green Lotus Sword Sect in Wu Tang World. There is a divine image jade annulus there. Kid, do you dare say you don't want to make good use of it in the future? Senior. Tacit understanding, tacit understanding. Green Feather King happily patted Su Fang's shoulder. I feel that this eternal big goblin has completely changed after coming out of Xian Wang's Six Paths Pagoda. Su Fang did not say anything, but he admitted it. The eternal big goblin was right again. There were only two reasons to save Li Ziqing. First, it was to repay him. After all, he had helped him first. Second, he wanted to borrow Li Ziqing's strength in Wu-Tang world to obtain the divine image Jade Annulus from Green Lotus Sword Sect. Su Fang knew that. As an old monster of the eternal big goblin, Green Feather King was also well aware of this. Under Green Feather King's instructions, Frozen King brought the three of them to a familiar merchant house. However, when Su Fang entered the merchant house, Li Ziqing was nowhere to be seen. Furthermore, the merchant house's surroundings were damaged. Did something happen to Li Ziqing? With Frozen King, what was there to be afraid of? Su Fang used his great circle ability to sense and immediately heard a lot of absorbing sounds from a few hundred meters away. The three of them arrived in the air above a very grand mansion. Below this mansion, there were more than 20 powerful big shots hibernating. Green Feather King waved his hand, and two figures floated out clearly. It's these two people. Hua. The Frozen King coldly glanced at him, then indifferently flashed downwards, disappearing without a trace. Speed. This speed was like teleportation in Xianjia Gate. This was the speed of an immortal. If there were such immortals in other portals, Su Fang and Green Feather King could feel that there would only be one outcome. Pung! The entire mansion suddenly sank by a foot, and the aura of countless shattered crystals rose. So. In less than 10 breaths, the Frozen King flew out of the mansion and released 2 streams of cold air to imprison 2 figures. The icebound monarch suddenly said, "A mortal actually used a Dao artifact to launch a sneak attack. In a fit of anger, he killed most of the mortal cultivators. No one should have survived." "It's you!" A cultivator who was shackled by the cold Shi exclaimed in agony. It was Li Ziqing. His entire body was covered in injuries, and he was as thin as a match, completely different from before. When he first saw Su Fang and Green Feather King, he cried out in disbelief. "This is our friend." Green Feather King nodded. After releasing Li Ziqing, Su Fang took a step forward and injected a ball of spiritual light that contained the aura of life into Li Ziqing's body. "Senior, don't worry. We've returned. Could it be that those people attacked you after we left?" With Li Ziqing's strength, how could he have ended up in such a state? Li Ziqing recovered from his panic. "They've long since disliked me. Together with Exalted Yuezhan, they attacked me. But in the end, I wasn't their match. They're absorbing my essence blood for their cultivation. In less than 10 years, I'll be sucked dry." Looking at the Frozen King, he was filled with terror. The Frozen King had used just one move to kill all those giants. Just what kind of person was he? Li Ziqing still couldn't believe what he was seeing. He hadn't expected Su Fang and Green Feather King to not only enter the crystal mirror, but also return alive. In just a moment, Li Ziqing had recovered quite a bit. The aura of a giant rose spontaneously. "Green Feather King, how could it be you, Big Goblin? Weren't you suppressed by my immortal sealing sect?" As for the other figure, he had been heavily injured. Adding on the fact that his core energy had been exhausted, he might not be able to live for much longer. "Exalted Yuezhan." Green Feather King laughed awkwardly. 10,000 years ago, your immortal sealing sect suppressed this king. But 10,000 years later, you've fallen into this king's hands. How could my immortal sealing sect allow you to escape? As an elder of the immortal sealing sect, Exalted Yuezhan urgently wanted to know the situation. "Su Fang, you handle this." He looked at Su Fang. "This is my immortal sealing sect's disciple." Exalted Yuezhan's gaze fell on Su Fang. He immediately saw that Su Fang was a disciple of the immortal sealing sect. But he was just a longevity sect's disciple. How had he managed to survive and appear in the immortal Jia-Gate's world? Exalted Yuezhan examined him for a moment, still filled with shock. Exalted Yuezhan, I am indeed a disciple of the immortal sealing sect, but I'm different from you. In my eyes, the immortal sealing sect is just a stepping stone for me to grow. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. You just need to understand that in your past life, you were suppressed by the immortal Jia-Gate. In your next life, you will be suppressed by me. Su Fang activated the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. It transformed into a pagoda image. Since it was heavily injured and unable to resist the icebound king's control, it was sucked into the profound yellow space. What a good mortal world magic treasure. It's just one step away from becoming a Dao treasure. It seems this Dao treasure is a magic treasure condensed from a minor world's world energy. It's the best choice for a minor world's realm master to have as their personal magic treasure. At this moment, the icebound king had a whole new level of respect for Su Fang. The same was true for Li Ziqing. An immortal realm cultivator was able to suppress a patriarch just like that, and he even had a peerless magic treasure. Next, we will go out and find the secret to leave the immortal Jia-Gate. You must know that the immortal Jia-Gate is a peerless Dao treasure. It has suppressed many immortals in the major world. In the past 100,000 years, most of the immortals have passed away due to various reasons. Some of them have turned into spatial puppets like me. There are only a few who survived and are shackled in some spaces. The icebound king stared at the sky and murmured to himself, in the past 100,000 years, not a single immortal has been able to leave the immortal Jia-Gate. But some immortals have ventured into the portals and brought back a lot of information. Let's go to the mirror spaces first. Phew, the ice belt carried the four of them and flew into the inner city. Then, they entered the crystal mirror. When they arrived at the mirror spaces with many overlapping portals, Li Ziqing was shocked. The icebound king was still protecting the three of them as he gradually rose into the sky. In the process, the three of them brushed past the portals with different colors and different breath. The purple Qi Dharma spirit in Su Fang's right arm buzzed from time to time. There must be countless treasures in the portals, but unfortunately, they could not obtain them. A circular portal appeared at the top of the mirror portals. The portal was a circular mirror, and its color was silver-white like the immortal Dao Gate. This is the portal. Every time the immortal Dao Gate spurts out air, this portal will have some movement. I think this portal is the central space of the immortal Jia Gate. Everyone, think carefully. No one knows what's going on inside. No one can predict whether you will live or die, the icebound king said expressionlessly. Living for thousands of years is better than dying. It's good to die quickly, Li Ziqing replied. Su Fang and Green Feather King naturally did not have any thoughts of retreating. Since they had come here, even if it was a dragon's pool, a tiger's den, a mountain of knives, a volcano, they still had to go. The icebound king released a huge force of a cultivator from a minor world. When it touched the circular mirror portal, the entire mirror flashed with a silver-white halo. The icebound king entered first. Li Ziqing, Su Fang, and Green Feather King flew into the circular mirror almost at the same time. They entered another world that was almost sealed in ice. However, this world was really different. The four of them were in a world full of layers of barriers and formations. Each barrier was stronger than a king-grade magic artifact, and all kinds of imprints could never be broken. Don't touch any of the barriers. With your mortal bodies, you will be instantly killed by the immortal formation, the icebound king shouted as he walked in front. Green Feather King and Li Ziqing were ancient giants, but they had never seen a real immortal formation. Every step they took made them feel uneasy and amazed. Su Fang was also shocked, but he thought of the Origin Sacred Realm. Compared to this, he could still move inside the immortal Jia Gate, but in the Origin Sacred Realm, he could not move. Apart from the icebound king, who could control his aura at will, the other three could only use their inner breath and could not absorb it. This was because high-level energy could not be absorbed at all. They could only walk and could not even fly. This space was 10 times stronger than any of the spatial restrictions in the immortal Jia Gate. In other spaces, they could at least run and ride the wind with their swords. But here, Green Feather King and Li Ziqing could not fly. Whoosh! The space of the immortal formation was like a world of nothingness. The four walked for a long time, but it was still an immortal formation. The space was infinitely big, and there was nothing else besides the formation. Suddenly, a vast mountain range appeared in front of them, and a gust of wind swept over. The four were surprised and happy. It took them a while to reach the mountain range, and they looked down at the immortal formation. There is an immortal palace there, the highest peak among the mountains. The ice-bound monarch pointed with her jade finger, and on the peak of the mountain sat a magnificent silver immortal palace shining with silver light. Rumble! Just as they looked at the immortal palace, the mountain range under their feet suddenly seemed to be about to collapse. Swish! Swish! The ice-bound king swept up cold air and lifted the three of them up. The four of them looked down and saw a mountain moving, and it began to move as if it had a life of its own. With a swing of its tail, the space trembled. Black mountains were constantly being separated from the mountain range. It looked like a black mountain was being separated from the mountain range. The icebound king frowned in fear. Demonic Qi! Such a huge monster! Li Ziqing was frightened. As for the Green Feather King and Su Fang, their expressions changed, but the two of them were abnormally calm. Such a big goblin was not enough to make them feel fear. Intruders will be killed without mercy. The black mountain that had come to life suddenly flipped, and its tail unfurled. It was actually not a snake, but a huge monster with a horn and dragon claws. Dragon! Su Fang's eyes lit up. Big goblin, this was a true big goblin, a monster that was qualified to be a great commander. He had originally planned to absorb this big goblin into the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda and make it the second great commander. This is a primordial flood dragon. How can such a legendary monster really exist? The icebound king was so frightened that her face turned pale. Flood dragon race. Even Green Feather King stared at the giant black mountain monster that was tens of thousands of zhang tall. It rose from the mountain range where the immortal palace was located, and his entire body trembled. Swish! The ice belt that supported the three of them scattered. The Green Feather King, Li Ziqing, and Su Fang instantly lost their center of gravity and plummeted down the mountain. As for the icebound king, she stepped on an icy sword Qi and flew towards the circular mirror door behind her. The Green Feather King wiped the blood off his face. The gravity of the fall had seriously injured him. He looked at the fleeing icebound king and gritted his teeth. I really can't believe this woman. Li Ziqing also suffered a heavy blow and supported Su Fang. Among the three of them, only Su Fang could barely stand straight. This was because the mysterious Dao tool's spatial energy was 10 times more than the Crystal City, Fiery World, and Frigid World. It suppressed Su Fang, a longevity cultivator, to the point that he could not release his true qi here. Just smashing into the rock from a few dozen feet above was enough to shatter his body and break his meridians. If his golden core was still there, it would have been shattered. Chapter 342. The primordial flood dragon transformed from the Black Mountain soared into the air and instantly coiled above the three of them. Green Feather King broke out in cold sweat. Primordial flood dragon, we're dead for sure. This is a primordial beast that's 10,000 times more ferocious than apes and dogs. It's as strong as the dragon race. What kind of Dao artifact is the Xianjia Gate? It can even suppress such a monster. Although he was the big goblin of eternity, what was his opponent? The flood dragon race. Primordial beasts existed in great worlds and even more distant worlds. If Green Feather King had the strength of a great world, he wouldn't be afraid of the primordial flood dragon. But now, the flood dragon could crush him with a stomp. Wait, it doesn't seem like the flood dragon is attacking us. Li Ziqing's pale face showed a surprised smile. Su Fang had never seen such a terrifying monster. The Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda couldn't suppress it unless it was a primordial chaos sage. He and Green Feather King saw that the flood dragon wasn't attacking them. It was gradually approaching the fleeing icebound monarch. The flood dragon wasn't in a hurry at all. It hadn't fully stretched its body yet. A mere spatial puppet dares to barge in here? The flood dragon spoke. It was like a burly middle-aged man full of confidence. It sneered at the icebound monarch, who was flying in the air on an ice sword. Whoosh! The latter's mountain-like body suddenly sped up in the vast world of the immortal formation. It was as if heaven and earth were moving, and even space itself shook. In an instant, the ancient flood dragon and the divine dragon swept their tails toward the icebound king. They were fast. Everything was crushed by the tail of the primordial flood dragon. The icebound monarch formed a seal with both hands, and the surrounding cold air immediately froze, forming a frozen space with her as the immortal spirit. Divine image Dharma land, heaven and earth freeze. You think your puny divine image Dharma land can resist this king? Pa. As the primordial flood dragon roared, its tail rumbled and submerged the frozen space. To a peerless beast, the frozen space was just a slightly larger block of ice. When it was submerged, the frozen space collapsed, and a bloody mist with shocking demonic chi emerged. The icebound monarch. No, it was the icebound monarch who had transformed into a true demon. Her eyes were red, and her body was bleeding. So what if she transformed into a true demon? He was not a skyfiend. The icebound monarch actually retreated and begged for mercy. Don't. If you kill me, I'm willing to go back and never come back. Trespassers shall be killed without mercy. True demons are the lowest level of existence in the demon race. If you were a heavenly demon, I would have absorbed you. However, the blood of the demon race does not suit this king's taste. The ancient flood dragon curled up its tail and turned into a huge mountain again. I'll go now. The frozen king let out a sigh of relief. He hadn't expected the flood dragon to let him go so easily. He sped up and fled. Boom! Fly 10 feet away, a black ray of light shot out from behind and hit the back of the icebound monarch. Her chest was crushed in an instant, turning into a bloody mist. There was a large bloody hole in her chest, and her heart had been crushed. Run! All the immortals were killed. Moreover, he was dying right in front of him. Li Ziqing's face tightened and he immediately sent a voice transmission to Green Feather King and Su Fangda. The three of them turned around and strode away from the central array formation area. But at this moment, the three of them understood that looking at their own speed, it was as if they were walking. How could they escape the ancient flood dragon's attack? We can even meet a little demon from the rock race in the lower realms. Little did they know. Just as the three of them expected, the black demon mountain floated in front of them. That ruthless, huge black eyeball just happened to stare right in front of them. The three of them were expressionless. They only felt their bodies turn cold. Green Feather King immediately bowed. Junior is indeed a descendant of the rock race. I hope Senior will allow us to live. The rock race is so powerful. This king has always wanted to kill them. You came at the right time. Although you are a little demon, absorbing your blood can strengthen its body. All of you will enter this king's stomach. Kiki. They thought there really was a chance. The three of them were wrong. A wave of demonic chi swept past the three of them. They watched as they were sucked into the ancient flood dragon's mouth. Then the world turned black and they fell without limit. They chased into the abyss. The three of them fell without the slightest chance of resisting the suction force. Whether it was Li Ziqing or Green Feather King, They were both almighty existences. Compared to the life forms of a great world, they were nothing more than ants. Su Fang's undying body was forcibly torn apart inch by this suction force. It was no different from peeling off his skin. His body gradually turned into a bloody mess. Green Feather King and Li Ziqing saw Su Fang's body about to be torn apart, but there was nothing they could do. They weren't much better off. They couldn't move at all. They were also suppressed by the ancient flood dragon's power. 10 breaths later, blinding light appeared in front of the three of them. Before they could see clearly, they were smashed into the blood wall. That huge force caused them to lose consciousness at the same time. As for Su Fang, his skin was gone, and his muscles were torn apart. Many of his meridians were broken. His body was just a bit away from being torn apart. Fortunately, Su Fang's left arm was made of dragon-subduing wood, and his yang energy wasn't suppressed. In this place where even Green Feather King and Li Ziqing couldn't circulate their yang energy, his body was slowly recovering. He thought he would quickly recover to a certain degree. But who would have thought that the blood-colored saliva would actually corrode his flesh? It wasn't just him. Li Ziqing and Green Feather King struggled to sit up. Some of their skin was also corroded. This is the ancient flood dragon's stomach. Green Feather King didn't have time to deal with the pain. He looked around in panic. They were surrounded by a huge blood stomach, and they had ended up in the ancient flood dragon's stomach. Look, what kind of altar is that? Li Ziqing suddenly saw something in front of them. There really was an altar in front of them. That altar was extremely strange. It also seemed to be condensed from flesh and blood. He didn't know what was on that altar. Let's preserve our lives first and resist the gastric juices. This is a pure yang rune talisman. Absorb. Su Fang released his body's mysterious energy. As he had expected, the fusion of 9 yang energy and 9 yin energy was able to stop the gastric juices from being absorbed. He condensed a large number of rune talismans and handed them to Green Feather King and Li Ziqing. The two of them sucked the rune talismans into their palms and began to absorb the pure yang energy. Li Ziqing's body turned pale, and he quickly recovered his ruddy complexion. What powerful yang energy! It can instantly stimulate life energy. Li Ziqing sighed in shock. For a moment, he felt that Su Fang was incomparably mysterious. He wasn't a mere imperishable realm cultivator. Whoosh bang! Just as the three of them were recovering, a figure suddenly fell down. Icebound King. Su Fang took a closer look and saw that it was the Icebound King's corpse. What an immortal's corpse! This is a peerless treasure. Su Fang spat out a strand of true qi and sucked the Icebound King's corpse into his body. You can all become sacrifices to help this king melt the stone seal. If this king wants to escape, he will need your blood. Unexpectedly, the three of them who were originally in a desperate situation and had been unable to resist the ancient flood dragon's gastric juices were once more controlled by a powerful force and sent flying toward the altar. They were unable to resist. When they arrived at the altar, they saw that there was a seal at the center. That seal had a stone lock that surprised the three of them, especially to Su Fang. That stone lock was actually the same ink-colored stone as the True Chapter incantation. This was a 3-meter-long ink-colored lock. The ink-colored lock was sealed at the center of the altar. Some of the ink-colored chains seemed to pass through the altar and extend into the flood dragon's body. It turned out that such a giant demon was also sealed here. It looked similar to the human emperor's bright wheel fragment sealed within Green Feather King's body. The three of them floated around the ink-colored lock. The immense force that was controlling the three of them suddenly doubled the gravity, causing the three of them to spurt out blood simultaneously. Blood began to drip onto the ink-colored lock. The seal on the ink-colored lock began to absorb the blood. The 3 streams of blood were quickly sucked into the ink-colored lock. The monstrous qi around the lock forced the blood into it. Li Ziqing despaired. Looking at Green Feather King and Su Fang, who were unable to resist, Li Ziqing knew what would happen next. In the end, they would not be able to escape this Xianjia gate. Kid, prepare to use your primordial chaos sacred realm. This is our last chance of survival. Green Feather King could not stop the blood from flowing out. At this moment, he was secretly communicating with Su Fang. Yes, as long as the ancient flood dragon is a monster, I can use the primordial chaos sacred realm to burn a hole in his stomach, just like how I dealt with the Shadua monsters back then. They were swallowed into the stomach of the huge monster. This was not the first time Su Fang had encountered such a situation. However, this time, it was a huge monster from a great world. Hiss, just as he was about to activate his primordial chaos sacred realm, Su Fang's blood landed on the black lock. Unlike Green Feather Monarch's and Li Ziqing's blood that was forcefully devoured by the black lock, Su Fang's blood automatically came into contact with the black lock. It was as if Su Fang's blood did not reject the black lock. Kid, this king thought of you. Didn't you absorb the essence qi from the true chapter proverb? The ink-colored stone piece is the same material as this lock. Presumably, this lock also has essence qi. It happens to be of the same lineage as the stone essence qi contained in your blood. Green Feather King saw through it. He was pleasantly surprised. His young infant's voice rang out, Senior Flood Dragon, there is someone among us who can absorb the seal's power and help Senior undo the seal. Senior, please give us a chance. Is that so? In the stomach, an invisible consciousness from the ancient flood dragon surged out. Su Fang took the opportunity to use the pure yang energy in his body. He activated his 2 yang meridians and used the 9 yang 9 transformations. As expected, a portion of the blood that fell on the ink-colored lock began to flow back. This scene caused Li Ziqing to click his tongue in wonder. The flood dragon's consciousness was also surprised. You're just an insignificant existence, but your body seems to contain the material energy of a high-level great world. Could it be you absorbed the essence qi of this windbreaker lock? As expected of a giant demon, it immediately sensed something. Junior truly did accidentally absorb some of the stone essence qi. Su Fang was both uneasy and excited. That was because he had absorbed the ink-colored lock's stone essence qi. But when this vast stone essence qi entered his body, his energy surged. His life force burned once more, and his body quickly recovered. In particular, a large amount of the stone essence qi entered his right arm. It was devoured by the violet qi magic spirit, and a portion was given to the Xianwang 6 Paths Pagoda to absorb. As a result, Su Fang's entire body was growing stronger. Crazy power. Good. If you can undo the seal on this lock, this king will give you a path to life. The flood dragon suddenly became happy. Green Feather King and Li Ziqing finally calmed down. Furthermore, the gravity that had been suppressing their bodies vanished. The 2 of them landed on the blood wall, and even the gastric juices automatically receded. As for Su Fang, he didn't care about that. Without the shackles of gravity, his absorption speed increased by 10 times. He absorbed the stone essence qi contained within the ink-colored lock. Chapter 343. Kid, do you feel any changes after absorbing so much stone essence energy? At this moment Green Feather King and Li Ziqing could only absorb the yang energy of the yang rune talisman and recover their vitality. The other was to care about Su Fang's current situation. I can only feel the stone essence energy pouring into my flesh and bones, causing my body to possess an undying aura. As for my meridians and flesh, they are recovering. I don't think I'll be able to see any changes from absorbing the stone essence energy. He opened his mouth to absorb the energy of the lock. Su Fang found that in the depths of his mind, there were some mysterious Tao runes that belonged to the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique. There weren't many Dao runes, and they drifted in Su Fang's mind. He couldn't grasp them even if he wanted to. He didn't know if someone was calculating his fate or something. In short, there seemed to be some changes in the unseen world, or something was about to happen. Su Fang didn't care so much. He could absorb as much energy as possible to help the primordial flood dragon break the seal and try to leave. The key was that he wasn't completely sure if he could use the primordial chaos sage to burn the primordial flood dragon and leave the Xianjia gate. Master, Xian Wang has recovered a lot. In addition to the gold and silver energy it absorbed before, Xian Wang has mostly recovered. As long as Master's cultivation breaks through to the Yang nascent soul realm in the future, you should be able to completely fuse with Xian Wang. Moreover, the purple Qi Law Spirit's energy is much more abundant, and its space has increased. The phantom of the Xian Wang primordial spirit appeared in his mind. The stone essence energy has such a wonderful effect. Su Fangdao was delighted. Now I just lack a large amount of Xian Wang stone and origin jade stones, especially Xian Wang stone. As long as I can gather a large amount, Xian Wang can recover to the 9th layer and its peak. There will be such a day. The changes were obvious. Absorbing the black stone essence from the outside world had indeed brought about an unimaginable change. Now, it was the change between the purple Qi Law Spirit and the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda. There was no difference in his own changes. And one thing was certain. His physical injuries had healed, and his energy had reached the peak. He had reached the peak of the 4th layer of the Undying Realm. Suppress. Su Fang could only suppress his energy and not let himself advance in this environment. Buzz buzz. The black stone lock in the seal suddenly shook slightly. The huge lock seemed to lose a lot of its weight. As the ink-colored lock shook, the surrounding sealing chains began to shake as well. The aura of the surrounding altar began to weaken, as though the entire seal was about to be broken. Kacha, the ink-colored lock absorbed the aura of the stone essence without restraint in Su Fangda. Suddenly, from its floating state, it cracked open and then shattered. Haha, good, good. With the seal broken, all that's left is the altar. This king won't need many years to destroy it. At this moment, the ancient flood dragon's sinister laughter echoed throughout the stomach. We're saved, Li Ziqing said in his heart. Qi. Perhaps not only Li Ziqing, but even Green Feather King and Su Fang thought the same. However, things didn't go as he wished. A streak of black demon qi and red light condensed in the blood stomach. With a whoosh, it turned into a sharp claw and pressed down on Su Fang with an invisible force. Su Fang let out a blood-curdling scream. Before the black and red light could fully grasp him, his body began to shatter once again. It was as if all the bones in his body were about to shatter under the immense pressure. Brat, there's no other way. The only way is to activate the primordial Chaos Saint. Green Feather King immediately stood up, filled with fury. But Junior is being suppressed by gravity. I can't move at all. My energy has also been shaken out of control. Junior has completely lost connection with my body and energy. Su Fang was constantly being compressed by that invisible force. Cracking sounds came from his body. Do your best to survive. Once you leave the Xianjia gate, you have to cherish it and create a name for yourself in the cultivation world. At this moment, Green Feather King suddenly ignited. A large amount of demon qi caused him to transform into his true body. He spat out a Xian Guang from his chest, shooting it at Su Fang. Bang! Green Feather King's true body leaped up, his golden wings flapping in the air. That condensed black demonic light emitted an invisible pressure that suppressed Su Fang, causing space to distort. Su Fang was forced back. He also grabbed onto the Xian Guang that Green Feather King had spat out. This is the seal of the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. Su Fang saw something from the Xian Guang. He looked at Green Feather King's true body. Senior, what are you doing? Why aren't you using your primordial sage? Seize this chance. This king won't be able to last 3 breaths. I'll suppress the ancient flood dragon's power. The rest of you run, roared Green Feather King. Little Pring King, you want to fight this king? You're courting death. Suddenly, a large hand shot out of the flood dragon's demon chi. It seemed to want to crush Green Feather King. Senior. Su Fang's eyes were actually wet. Who said demons were heartless? Who said demons were fickle? While Green Feather King blocked the flood dragon's attack and regained his freedom, Su Fang took out his primordial sage and nodded to Li Ziqing. Pow! That hand finally reached out and grabbed Green Feather King's body. A large amount of feathers fell from Green Feather King's body, and then it tossed him to the other side. It was unknown whether Green Feather King was dead or alive. He landed in the depths of that blood wall. Buzz. Green Feather King had precious time that he had bought himself. It was just a few breaths of time. The familiar red light shot out of his primordial sage and shot toward the flood dragon's flesh wall. The flood dragon sneered, and its claws reached out once more. A tiny treasure dares to blaspheme this king? As for Su Fang, he didn't move. He floated in the air, while Li Ziqing watched on in despair. Bang! In the end, the flood dragon's speed and power surpassed Su Fang's. The claw force grabbed the primordial chaos sacred above and hit the red light that surged out of the mirror. It seemed to want to crush the red light, and the power of the demonic claw oppressed. However, Su Fang and the primordial sage's red light weren't affected at all. Oh! In the flood dragon's eyes, this was all just a game. It could easily kill 3 ants from the mortal realm. But this time, its attention was drawn to the primordial sage. Is this also an extraordinary Dao item? Good, this king just happens to be lacking a peerless Dao item. It's this king's chi. The red light suddenly burned and shot out the 9 yang true fire. Boom! The red light easily scattered the claw's demonic power that was suppressing the 9 yang true fire. The red light hit the blood wall, and the 9 yang true fire exploded. The flames burned the flood dragon's flesh wall, layer by layer. The body of a peerless monster from a great world was like an ordinary monster in front of a primordial sage. It couldn't resist at all. This, Li Ziqing felt like he had just walked through the gates of hell. He thought he would end up like Green Feather King, but seeing Su Fang resist the flood dragon, he was truly shocked. Damn it! Damn it! The flood dragon cried out in pain. A burning hole appeared in the blood wall. Su Fang no longer had any reluctance and flew toward the hole with Li Ziqing. Tut! Tut! The flood dragon's flesh was directly burned by the 9 yang true fire. There was a tremor, and suddenly, a flame rushed out of the void. Su Fang and Li Ziqing flew out of the hole. Humans! Despicable humans! The Black Mountain was no longer there, but the ferocious flood dragon. The moment they escaped from the flood dragon's body, Su Fang's primordial sage red light was still being released into the mysterious immortal formation space above the immortal palace. Bang! An invisible aura shot into the sky along with the red light and suddenly turned into countless storms that swept through the empty space. No. The flood dragon realized that something big was about to happen and pounced towards Su Fang. Hula! The storm that suddenly formed suddenly sucked Su Fang and Li Ziqing into the twisting storm passage. It actually looked like a mirror door with circles of ripples appearing on it. The mirror ripples sucked Su Fang, Li Ziqing, and the storm of this mysterious immortal formation space into it. This king will not let you escape from the immortal Jia Gate. The flood dragon pounced toward another space. Evil dragon, you're still not obedient. A cold voice came from the sky above the immortal formation. Do you believe that I won't let you live? I'll turn you into a real mountain right now. This king can't even kill 2 human brats. The flood dragon was forced to stop. Its body curled up and turned into its black mountain form. Plus, I can't let the humans leave like this. You don't have to worry about this. I think you want that treasure in the hands of the humans, right? The voice came from the void. That might be a peerless Tao artifact on the same level as yours. You're thinking too simply. That's no longer a Tao artifact. This time, I had no choice but to let them leave. Otherwise, the large amount of immortal formations in my body would have been burned away. In the end, I still let them leave. After the voice finished speaking, a crystal light pierced through the immortal formation space. It's actually the purple cloud Dharma spirit. Why did it appear in a small world? Where are we? Where are we? The terrifying storm was like a deep abyss of quagmire. Su Fang and Li Ziqing lost their direction along with the whirlpool. They were powerless to resist the storm. Li Ziqing sighed in despair. Peng Peng Hu knew. In an instant, the two lost their center of gravity and also lost the huge pressure. Along with the storm, they broke through the immortal clouds in the sky and fell to the ground. The two smashed into the ground and saw stars. Su Fang once again felt like his bones were about to fall apart. He looked around and suddenly felt that it was very familiar. It was no longer the terrifying space in the depths of the Xianjia Gate. We're out. This is the outer space of the Xianjia Gate. We really came out. I actually came out alive. Li Ziqing trembled as he stood up. He was a big shot, but he was already in a heavily injured state. Now, he looked like he was about to cry. Su Fang looked back in disappointment. Su Fang, let's leave this place. We can't let down the Green Feather King who risked his life to save us. Li Ziqing suddenly replied. We have to leave. What if that flood dragon chases after us again? In that case, the Green Feather King would have died in vain. Ancient Flood Dragon, I, Su Fang, swear that one day I will come here again. At that time, I will skin you and take your bones to avenge Senior Peng King. Su Fang suddenly bowed and stood up after a long time. Senior Peng King, this junior will not forget your kindness of rebirth. It turns out that demons are more trustworthy than humans. Li Ziqing patted Su Fang's shoulder. It's not easy to leave the outer door of the Tao artifact. It requires the power of a catastrophe realm expert. I will lead you out. Whoosh! At that moment, his gaze was still returning. His line of sight quickly retreated, and the immortal clouds broke apart. During this process, some cultivators who were searching for treasures in the outer space of the Xianjia Gate also saw the two flying away in the sky. However, they did not pay attention to them out of curiosity. Their speed was very fast. In front of them, they saw a door embedded in the center of the Tao artifact barrier. Whoosh! At this moment, Li Ziqing raised his speed to the extreme. When he stepped into the silver-white door, the huge pressure disappeared. His body was incomparably light, especially the familiar aura of nature and sunlight enveloped him. Chapter 344. They escape. They were probably the only two cultivators to come out alive since Xianjia Gate descended 100,000 years ago. With the speed of a catastrophe realm, Su Fang and Li Ziqing flew out of Xianjia Gate and entered the depths of Flying Immortal Island from the square. A mortal can absorb the stone essence qi and cause many seals in my body to resonate. What kind of secret does this undying realm human cultivator have to be able to make the purple cloud law spirit recognize him as its master? There seemed to be a pair of eyes. They were staring at the two disappearing figures from Xianjia Gate. Senior, find a place where no one is around. In the infinite sky, the two figures only left behind afterimages before disappearing into the clouds. After a few breaths, in a mountain range in the extraterritorial zone outside the Flying Immortal Island. This place is not bad. There is no one within 10,000 miles, but there are some powerful demon beasts hibernating here. In the clouds of the mountain range, Su Fang followed Li Ziqing and gradually flew into the mountain range. I will set up a sensing barrier. After landing, Li Ziqing was weak and powerless, and Su Fang was also exhausted, almost collapsing on the ground. Bearing the heavy injuries, Li Ziqing, as a catastrophe realm powerhouse, disappeared in an instant. I finally escaped. The free sky, the familiar aura of the small world, and the unfettered absorption, all of this made Su Fang's eyes slightly wet. He thought of Green Feather King. If not for this ancient giant demon, he would not have been able to come out alive. The previous flight attendant elder, and the later immortal, icebound king. These were all humans. Humans had met these experts a few times before, who did not know how to scheme and scheme like a snake. But Green Feather King was a demon race expert, and in the end, when Su Fang was in the most difficult time, he resolutely stepped forward. What was the difference between humans and demons? Demons could do such a righteous act. On the other hand, humans. The barrier has already enveloped the area within 10 miles. Unfortunately, I have not even reached the strength of a catastrophe realm first transformation. A figure flashed, and Li Ziqing returned. He immediately sat down, panting from exhaustion. "Servants!" Su Fang shouted. "Russell!" Li Ziqing was so frightened that he suddenly trembled, because more than 10 Yang Soul cultivators had appeared out of thin air. Fortunately, when he saw Su Fang's hand seals, he was able to remain calm. He understood that they were all servants under Su Fang's control. Mo Fengjun, Feng Xingzhen, and the rest of the 7 experts will rush over immediately. You guys guard the surroundings and protect the barrier. Don't let anyone enter the barrier. Yes, master. The Yang Soul slaves flew in all directions. Almost at the same time, he summoned the 7 Yang Soul slaves who had left alone to search for treasures. Mo Fengjun, Feng Xingzhen, Zhua Zuifeng, Xiahou Ling, Peng Yanjin, Gao Qing, and Wu Wei, the 7 great experts, were searching for them from the flying immortal island. Li Ziqing calmed himself down and praised, "Good technique. To be able to shackle so many Yang Soul cultivators as an undead realm cultivator, I've traversed many small worlds, but I've never met a cultivator who could suppress so many slaves." With so many Yang Soul slaves guarding the place, Li Ziqing and Su Fang could rest assured and recuperate and cultivate here. Su Fang took out a large number of spirit stones and created an altar. "Senior, I have to transcend the tribulation immediately and advance to the 5th stage of the undead realm." "Is that so? You're only at the 4th stage of the undead realm." Li Ziqing opened his palm and a jade bottle appeared. "There are hundreds of millions of indestructible pure essence pills and tens of thousands of Yang Soul and marrow cleansing pills here." "Thank you, Senior." Su Fang didn't care about the pure essence pills. Marrow cleansing pills, this was a treasure that all Yang Soul experts yearned for. Moreover, they had all reached the Yang Soul realm. This would be of great help to Su Fang's future cultivation. Compared to the Yang Energy Rune Talisman you gave me at the Xianjia Gate, these pills are nothing. Moreover, for an expert like me, most pills are no longer necessary, unless it's rare treasures like the life-seizing regeneration pill. If you need any help, just let me know. Li Ziqing nodded and flew 100 meters away. He didn't want to distract Su Fang. On the altar, Su Fang suppressed the energy in his body. He had already reached the 4th stage of the undead realm. If he didn't suppress it, he would have been promoted the moment he left the Xianjia Gate. A terrifying calamity would befall him. The left arm formed by the dragon taming would absorb the natural life energy. The yang energy in his body was gradually released. He took a large number of pure essence pills and a marrow cleansing pill. His physical body was still in a state of serious injury. With the help of the dragon taming wood, his physical body was constantly recovering. His perfect stage ability was also very terrifying. A few days later, the seal on the energy in his body immediately disappeared. Bang! The squeezed energy gushed out. The power of shattering combined with the energy and exploded violently. At this moment, Su Fang was as terrifying as a wild beast. Fifth stage of the undead realm. Another breakthrough. Even Su Fang himself didn't know how much high-level energy he had absorbed during this trip to the Xianjia Gate. How many undetectable changes had occurred to his physical body. Huff, huff, huff. Before he used the 100 acupoints finger technique to attack, a large number of dark clouds suddenly appeared in the sky. The aura of the heavenly tribulation condensed with an earth-shattering force. When one advanced from the immortal realm to the undead realm, the heavenly tribulation would be suppressed. Now that the power of advancement had penetrated the shackles in the body, the heavenly tribulation would still be attracted and mercilessly descend. Moreover, suppressing the heavenly tribulation would make the power of the heavenly tribulation even more terrifying. When Su Fang looked up, the river of heavenly tribulation had already formed. As thunder rumbled, the burning tribulation fire poured down, splashing and burning Su Fang. Whoosh! He released the flesh fetus divine armor. He used the dragon snake roll and flew into the air. With a flick of his finger, the moment the tribulation fire fell, the dragon snake roll was as terrifying as the ancient flood dragon. It roared and became more and more powerful. It was like the mouth of a demon, cutting the flames of the heavenly tribulation into pieces. The heavenly tribulation is indeed terrifying. Some of the aura of the heavenly tribulation will silently enter the body and block the meridians, making it difficult for the person undergoing the tribulation to activate their energy. During the process of resisting the heavenly tribulation, he didn't know if it was because he had absorbed too much high-level energy, such as the stone essence energy of the ink-colored stone, or because he had fused with the dragon-taming wood as his left arm. Or perhaps it was related to the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. In short, Su Fang felt many strange auras from the heavenly tribulation and nature that he had never felt before. He couldn't describe or detect these powers. There really is stone essence energy in my meridians, bones, and flesh. With such a strong energy, won't the hardness of my physical body increase to another level? After shattering a large amount of tribulation fire, his physical body was equivalent to receiving the approval of heaven and earth. Su Fang felt infinitely refreshed. He could also sense many of the auras in his body. Stone essence energy, the stone essence energy that came from the mysterious ink-colored stone inside the Xianjia Gate. Chi, a large amount of heavenly lightning fell. Su Fang glanced and indifferently controlled the dragon snake roll to kill the heavenly lightning. With Su Fang's current strength, the tyrannical heavenly tribulation was instantly killed by the dragon snake roll. In less than half an incense stick's time, the heavenly tribulation no longer sent any attack. Layers of tranquil aura sprinkled down, and the heavenly tribulation slowly faded. When Su Fang absorbed the tranquil aura, his physical body finally felt one with nature. Any shackles in his body dissipated with the heavenly tribulation. Returning to the altar, he took another marrow-cleansing pill. Many impurities surged out of his body. He continued to take out the remaining ice heart and fire heart to absorb, as well as the spirit fire. Many high-level powers surged into his body, and finally, they were merged with the pure yang energy from the 9 yang 9 transformations. Su Fang's strength was constantly increasing again. After sensing it, he confirmed that Mo Fengjun, Feng Xingzhen, and the other experts had returned. As a result, the trip to the Xianjia Gate was temporarily over. Next, I should return to the Celestial Sealing Sect. Using his wisdom, he carefully analyzed in his mind. No, I've only been trapped in the Xianjia Gate for a few months, 10 years. If I return to the Celestial Sealing Sect now, I'm afraid I'll be dealt with by the Crown Prince Society. Moreover, I'll be restricted everywhere. I won't be able to raise my strength to the peak in 10 years. Deep eyes suddenly focused on Li Ziqing, who was cultivating in the distance. Why don't I go to the Wu Tan world to cultivate? With my identity there, I can cultivate without worry. With the support of an ancient giant, I might even be able to seize the divine image jade annulus from the green lotus sword sect. I should also go to the otherworld to broaden my horizons. After making up his mind, he released a thought into the true demon blood plate. When Su Fang appeared, Gui Gui immediately pounced over. She hugged his neck and then his shoulder. She was very naughty. Su Fang's gaze coldly swept over. In front of him, inside the devil chi seal, there was an old man releasing his true chi to resist the devil chi. Exalted Luna Yuezhan. He was a peerless expert of the celestial sealing sect from 10,000 years ago. He had been trapped in the Xianjia Gate for thousands of years. Now, he had fallen into Su Fang's hands. You little bastard, let me out. You want to deceive your master and destroy your ancestors, and you even colluded with the demon rock. Exalted Luna Yuezhan's gaze was still cold. Hearing the other party's aggressive tone, Su Fang was still calm. He calmly said, Exalted Luna Yuezhan, you have to be clear about one thing. I'm not a disciple of the Celestial Sealing Sect. I entered the Celestial Sealing Sect to take back the treasure that belongs to me. So, don't randomly pin the blame on me. Exalted Luna Yuezhan's temper exploded. Little bastard, if I can get out, I'll definitely turn you into ashes. You also have to understand that you're currently trapped in the true devil blood plate. You should have heard of this devil item before. The Devil Path's supreme treasure, the true devil blood plate. Are you a Devil Path spy? What Devil Path spy? You should be clear about how powerful the true devil blood plate is. I have 10,000 ways to torture you for eternity. I can refine you into a puppet and turn you into a tool for me. I can also use human blood goo to extract your essence blood so that I can absorb your strength to reach the Calamity Realm. Or I can use devilish poison to corrode you, or I can use flames to burn you. For example, the green fiend True Flame you're familiar with. Impossible. You're just an undying disciple. How can you control the green fiend True Flame? What a joke. I can only slowly grasp this divine ability after reaching the Calamity Realm. Other than the immortal sealing scripture, the green fiend True Flame and the 10,000 gods seal are the hardest divine abilities to grasp. I know you don't believe me, so I've long since prepared to let you have a taste. With a flip of his left hand, the flaming cloud spirit gourd appeared. You also have a supreme treasure like the spirit gourd? Could it be that you swindled it from my celestial sealing sect? The flaming cloud spirit gourd caused Exalted Luna Yuezhan to exclaim in disbelief. Chi! The flaming cloud spirit gourd suddenly flew out from Su Fang's hand, leaving behind a red light. Within the devil chi seal, the ancient powerhouse was so frightened that he hastily put up a defense. That was because the flaming cloud spirit gourd was spewing out green fiend True Flame. Bang! The moment Exalted Luna Yuezhan's defense appeared, it was shattered by Gui Gui. If not for Su Fang, Gui Gui would have definitely eaten Exalted Luna Yuezhan until not even a bone was left. Damn it! Damn it! The green fiend True Flame swallowed the devil chi space, burning Exalted Luna Yuezhan until he was like an ant on a hot pan. He hugged his head and ran back and forth, turning the surroundings into a burning purgatory. This was not enough. Some of the devilish poison followed the devil chi and attacked Exalted Luna Yuezhan. This ancient powerhouse was burned beyond recognition. His skin, flesh, and blood were corroded by the devilish poison. It was a fate worse than death. However, this ancient powerhouse had spent thousands of years in the Xianjia Gate and still gritted his teeth and endured. Su Fang left the true devil blood plate and let Exalted Luna Yuezhan slowly suffer inside. Not long after, Li Ziqing recovered a bit. After communicating with Su Fang, he learned that Su Fang wanted to go to the Wu-Tan world. He also tried his best to invite Su Fang to his clan as a guest so that he could act as a host. After recalling the Yang soul slave, Su Fang used a teleportation talisman and brought Li Ziqing to the Crimson Firmament continent. P.S. My attention was focused on the Xianjia Gate and neglected my cultivation realm. I am now in the Undying realm. I am sweating profusely. Chapter 345. Crimson Firmament Continent Immortal Ceiling Sect Ice Moon Paradise, High Immortal Heaven Saber Mountain. At this moment, many Immortal Heaven disciples of Ice Moon Paradise were watching. Bang, bang, bang. The entire Saber Mountain's barrier was being dismantled by a powerful woman. It was Master Yan Kaifeng. Fang Yu was too bold. He offended the Crown Prince faction and even dared to challenge Prince Shui. He deserved to be punished by Prince Shui and die in Xianjia Gate. He deserved it. He didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and offended Prince Shui. Saber Mountain's barrier created by Fang Yu has disappeared. This Saber Mountain will welcome its next master. Many disciples were discussing this in private. Yiguren, Wang Meng, Qing Jianxia, and the others who had conflicts with Su Fang or knew him appeared in the crowd. Qian Huanyun, Lin Yining, and a few other female disciples were floating around Yan Kaifeng. Yan Kaifeng was very strong. She personally dismantled the Saber Mountain's barrier created by Su Fang. Alright, if any of you can make a big contribution, you can become the new master of this place. Dismantling the seal with that, Yan Kaifeng took to the skies and left. Fang Yu is very mysterious. Some undying disciples entered the Saber Mountain. Some were curious, some wanted to find something left behind by Su Fang. In short, at least a few hundred people entered the Saber Mountain. Reaching the Immortal Heaven, Immortal Ceiling Sect's upper-level space, Yan Kaifeng walked out of the wondrous door. In front of her was a large hall. Ice Moon Paradise's elder Jin Chongkong was sitting on his throne. Junior Sister Yan, this time's Xianjia Gate trial has ended. In the end, the three venerated Path disciples performed well and obtained many treasures for the sect. However, no one was able to unlock the secret of Xianjia Gate. As Yan Kaifeng sat down, Jin Chongkong continued, the trial was just a gimmick. The sect's intention was to let the three venerated Path disciples bring many treasures from Xianjia Gate to unlock the secret of Xianjia Gate. Unfortunately, they still couldn't obtain that Dao artifact. I heard that the sect will soon decide on a new leader. Yan Kaifeng, who had been silent for a while, suddenly asked a question that made Jin Chongkong silent. It's not that early. It's just that the disciples of the three paths of venerables are all shining too brightly, causing some of the elders to become restless. Our grotto heaven is acting as usual, focusing on the disciples' cultivation. The higher-ups have also discussed the matter of Fang Yu. As a disciple with potential worth nurturing, compared to the disciples of the three paths of venerables, Fang Yu can't affect the sect. However, Prince Shui is different. He has the support of the higher-ups. Did they not give us an explanation? This kind of statement is obviously insignificant. Most of the time, it's just that our heavenly grotto heaven's disciples aren't as skilled as others, and Fang Yu colluding with the sky drilling rat is also a fact. There's no need to doubt it. Even if this matter is over, I believe that there will be more disciples like Fang Yu appearing in the future. As long as the sect is strong, we disciples will also be able to establish ourselves in the Zhuotian realm. Jin Zhongkong let out a long sigh and let Yan Kaifeng leave the training hall. On the other side, the crown prince of the Great Qin Kingdom and many important people with royal auras were gathered at Shueling's training hall. Brother Shui, this is really satisfying. It's fine if the crown prince didn't make a move, but once he did, the situation changed. Even if Huang Lingyao was there and interceded, he still punished Fang Yu in front of everyone. The crown prince's move is brilliant. He did it for the two major factions and sects to see. Many experts of the crown prince's faction were bragging about Prince Shui's methods. Schwelling sat at the top, and when he heard these words, his expression changed. A mayfly trying to shake a tree. One Feng Yu is nothing. In the future, Huang Lingyao and Xing Chongxing, the two paths of venerables, will be trampled under the crown prince's feet. An expert clapped his hands and praised. On the meteorite field outside the secret cave, Luan Mo and the Demon King brought along 8 young soul slaves. After waiting for a while, Su Feng and Li Ziqing welcomed them. The impotence pill is actually better than the pure essence pill. Returning to the secret cave after so many years, Su Feng also felt a lot of emotions. Li Ziqing did not expect Su Feng, an undying cultivator, to be able to establish an alchemy force. Most importantly, he had a peerless pill that surpassed the primordial pill. Why don't you follow me to the Wu Tan world this time and bring the impotence pill to the other world to sell? At the same time, the latter also gave some suggestions to Su Feng. Especially the suggestion to sell the impotence pill in the Wu Tan world. Su Feng was very interested. However, they were currently in the stage of cooperating with the Immortal Bestowment Chamber of Commerce. It was better to sell the pill step by step. First, they had to make a name for themselves in the Zhuotian world. When their strength grew a little stronger, they could then sell it to other small worlds. Su Feng also understood the situation of alchemy over the past few years. Every year, they would refine close to 100 million impotence pills. What they lacked the most now was yang qi. Without yang qi, they would not be able to refine large amounts of impotence pills. Next, they would rest in the secret cave for a month. Within this month, Su Feng would remove the yang qi from the 2 yang veins and the purple qi dharma spirit space, and condense them all into yang qi rune talismans. It was enough to refine the impotence pill for a very long time. The 18 of you will stay in the secret cave for the time being. You guys work together to refine the impotence pill. In the future, you don't need to increase the quantity. You have to distribute the yang qi rune talismans reasonably. I am going to the Wu Tan world and will only be back in 10 years. Other than the 7 slaves, Feng Xingzhen, Mo Fengjun, Zhua Zuifeng, Xiahou Ling, Peng Yanjin, Gao Qing, and Wu Wei, Su Feng called out the remaining 18 young nascent soul slaves. These 18 people were all experts from the 1,000 treasure path. He wanted them to join the team of Demon King Shangzuan and Luan Mo to refine pills here and protect this secret cave. Demon King Shangzuan could not hide his excitement when he saw so many experts. Master, the Supreme God sect has been looking for us for the past few years. Fortunately, this is the territory of the Immortal Bestowment sect, so they did not dare to send more experts here. We can deal with this small trouble for now. Cooperate well. If anyone is dishonest, I will not be polite when I return. Taking the large amount of pure elemental pills that they had traded for the past few years, Su Feng and Li Ziqing left the meteorite field in a split second. White clouds, blue sky, and 3 scorching suns in the sky emitted layers of scorching heat. The best way to go from the Zhuotian domain to the Wu Tan domain is to go through a great force's mystic gate. The heavenly ship can also travel through stars, but it requires a lot of spirit stones. Usually, only a large number of cultivators can use the heavenly ship. Let's go to the Immortal Bestowment sect's mystic gate. No, the spirit sect's ruins. The Supreme God sect is there. My identity is not a disciple of the Immortal Bestowment sect, but my original body. I do not want to get involved in unnecessary trouble with the Immortal Bestowment sect at this time. The spirit sect's ruins. Li Ziqing, who was flying in the sky, stared at Su Feng, who had transformed back into his original body, and sighed. When I came to the Zhuotian domain from the Wu Tan domain, I also passed through the spirit sect's ruins. The Supreme God sect has already become a great force in the Zhuotian domain. The Supreme God sect is already a great force, but it is still inferior to the Immortal Bestowment sect and the Blue Cloud sect. However, in the Zhuotian domain, the Supreme God sect is like an evil sect. So what if it is an evil sect? Strength speaks in this world. Righteous and evil can invert black and white in front of strength. Li Ziqing sneered and increased his speed again. He and Su Fang gradually left the center of the Crimson Heaven continent. One day later, the spirit sect's ruins. The familiar aura of desolation pervaded Su Fang's sensing range. In a short while, he and Li Ziqing passed by the underground market. However, their goal was not the market, but the deeper parts, where the Supreme God sect controlled the shuttle door. The shuttle door was not too far away from the underground market. Took about 2 hours. A huge mountain that looked like a stone pillar stood in the middle of the mountain range. A large number of experts of the Supreme God sect could be seen entering and exiting the huge seal barrier above the huge mountain. There were also some other cultivators appearing from the barrier from time to time. Only big forces have the financial resources to build a large-scale shuttle door. They also have the strength to protect it. There are a large number of Calamity Realm experts of the Supreme God sect guarding the surroundings. I am worried that someone will have the idea of passing through the shuttle door. Gradually flying towards the barrier, Li Ziqing swept across the surroundings calmly. Using the Great Perfection Stage ability, Su Fang also sensed a lot of deep auras in the surroundings. He asked curiously, "I have a question. I heard from the higher-ups of the Celestial Sealing sect that the Xianjia Gate forbids any foreign cultivators from taking half a step in. Senior, why do you still want to take the risk?" Li Ziqing's eyes revealed a faint and ancient emptiness, because Calamity Realm experts have to face the 9 cycles of heavenly tribulation. Every cycle of heavenly tribulation is an unimaginable bottleneck. If you don't break through the bottleneck, you won't be able to transcend the mortal world. Therefore, people like me or Exalted Yuezhan, who was suppressed by you, can ignore the so-called danger and life and death in order to take the final step. The only thought they have is to break through the shackles and step into the big world. Even if the Xianjia Gate belongs to a certain force, it can't stop those experts who want to transcend the mortal world. Inside the Xianjia Gate you also saw countless bones and corpses. Actually, no one is clear about the dangers, but in the end, they still rushed over like a flock of ducks and lost their lives. When you step into the Calamity Realm, you will know what a real cultivator is. I indeed still have a long way to go. When Su Fang's gaze swept across the front, a few experts of the Supreme God sect appeared from the barrier and questioned him. Su Fang gradually understood why the Supreme God sect was able to become a big force in the ruins of a continent in more than 10,000 years. Inside the barrier, there were a large number of cultivators who didn't belong to the Zhuotian realm, waiting for the door to open. Naturally, there were also cultivators from other worlds who had just been teleported over. The Supreme God sect was not like the other forces in the Zhuotian realm, who would interrogate the cultivators who entered the Zhuotian realm in detail or record them one by one. They only cared about collecting enough spirit stones or pure elemental pills. Thus, the Supreme God sect became a place where cultivators from other worlds gathered to travel. Just think about how much wealth the Supreme God sect could reap from this. I didn't expect that one person would need 30 million pure yang soul pills to travel to the Wutan realm. That's enough to buy an ordinary high-grade magical equipment. Inside the barrier, there were a large number of experts from the Supreme God sect. Inside the barrier, there were many barriers, and in the center of the barrier was an altar. Many cultivators were waiting around the altar. Su Fang followed Li Ziqing to the center of the altar and saw that there were already more than 10 cultivators on it. All of them were Yang Soul experts, and Su Fang still felt a little heartache for the pure elemental pills that he had just taken out. However, with Li Ziqing, this old antique 60 million pure Yang Soul pills was nothing. But to Su Fang, who was a stage 5 undying cultivator, it was an astronomical figure. It's not that expensive. Zhuotian realm only needs to travel to the Wutan realm once, unlike other worlds that need to travel a few times. Traveling to and from one world to another requires hundreds of millions of pure elemental pills. Li Ziqing indicated for Su Fang to sit in the center of the altar. The surrounding experts also sat quietly. After waiting for a while, a few more experts went up the altar. There were about 20 of them. Then, with a buzzing sound, everyone felt that the altar was shaking. An ear-piercing tearing sound suddenly exploded. Their vision flew backward, and they felt that their bodies were about to fall into a boundless abyss. Following the ear-piercing sound, they were instantly immersed in the boundless starlight. Su Fang looked around in shock. He was actually in the middle of a vast galaxy. The universe. Beside him was the boundless universe, and countless stars were twinkling with dazzling light. The speed was too fast, and even the stars were flying backward. Su Fang could also see that the crystal blue Zhuotian realm was only the size of a fist. Everyone was holding their breath. Suddenly, the sound of thunder came from above the portal. I've received news that a star-dust storm suddenly exploded in front of us. We're about to collide with the dust storm's remaining power. Everyone, use your defenses. It's possible that the teleportation barrier will be shattered. Everyone is in the middle of a boundless galaxy. Chapter 346. What? The experts who were immersed in waiting immediately rose to their feet. Dust storm. This is the destructive force of the galaxy. Why did we encounter it? I heard that 100 years ago there was a dust storm that cut off the shuttle door in several directions. In the end, all the cultivators in the shuttle door were killed, and their corpses scattered in the galaxy. Chaos. Inside the barrier of the shuttle door, the experts were still not as calm as Su Fang. Their cultivations had reached the Yang Soul realm, but when they heard about the dust storm in the galaxy, they were so frightened that they were flustered. Their faces turned pale, and they all looked forward. Su Fang also looked over curiously. In the depths of the galaxy, there was indeed a glaring light that looked like a broken gecko. At first, it was in the shape of a gecko, but soon countless cracks appeared. Then, countless rays of light shot out, and the galaxy set off a semicircular explosion. At this moment, every cultivator was deeply shocked. In small worlds, perhaps they were used to seeing earthquakes that caused the sky to fall and the earth to crack, or volcanoes to explode, rivers to cut off water flow, and empires to be destroyed. However, this was the first time they were in a small world, and a natural dust storm came from the infinite galaxy. Apart from Li Ziqing, everyone present was scared witless. Fortunately, the shuttle door was under the control of the Supreme God Sex experts. They constantly suppressed the speed and tried their best to change direction so that they did not enter the center of the dust storm. Li Ziqing stood with his hands behind his back. He stood in the center and transmitted his voice. I reckon that this shuttle door will be shattered by the dust storm. Get ready. We will be drifting in the galaxy for a while. We should have reached the Wu Tan domain in half an hour. It would have been better if they did not hear it. After hearing it, their hearts thumped and trembled. Su Fang was very surprised. I heard that even immortals can't survive in the galaxy. It seems that only Yang Soul Realm experts can survive in the galaxy. The galaxy is the same as the Xianjia Gate. Li Ziqing motioned for Su Fang to calm down, and then continued to look at the terrifying dust storm that was constantly extending in front of them. Small worlds are born from the galaxy, and they are transformed into a world by the galaxy. Naturally, small worlds are part of the galaxy. The galaxy surpasses the energy of any small world, and human cultivators who come to the galaxy will be oppressed by high-level energy and all kinds of mysterious substances. In the Xianjia Gate, that is the aura of a big world. Mortal realm cultivators like you and me can't even move an inch inside, and we can't even use true qi. Similarly, if we are in the galaxy, most immortals will be shackled and die. Yang Soul Realm cultivators can barely survive, but if they encounter some floating in the galaxy or other forces of the galaxy, they will be killed. Flesh Divine Armor. I see. After a series of sighs, Su Fang suddenly understood. He hurriedly activated the Flesh Divine Armor. Since Li Ziqing was sure that the door would break, he had to be prepared to drift in the galaxy. Because the smaller the galaxy, the harder it was to completely slow down the shuttling speed of the door. The moment the dust storm in front of Su Fang seemed to freeze and disappeared, the cultivator's pupils dilated, and they looked shocked. They shuttled through the door and entered the semicircular static area near the dust storm. Boom! It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. Every cultivator shuttled in the shuttling door, colliding with each other, back to back, or hugging each other. They were no different from ants on a hot pan. The circular enchantment of the Gate of Wonders was in a state of shock, and the surrounding enchantment was on fire due to the friction. When more than 30 experts of the Supreme God sect appeared, the enchantment shook violently again, and like a semicircular gem, the enchantment was torn apart. Buzz! The Supreme God sect and the shuttling experts suddenly fell into a dead silence in the galaxy, and the explosive force of the dust storm suddenly turned into an endless suction force, grabbing everyone and the fragments of the shuttling door in the palm of its hand. When it pulled, there was suddenly a pushing force that shook everyone away. Puff, puff. Many cultivators spat out blood and were powerlessly shaken in all directions by the power of the stars and the fragments of the door. Some cultivators called out their flying swords in time, and some used their magical powers. Although the galaxy was smaller, it couldn't reach the height of the Xianjia Gate. In the galaxy, only those who had reached the peak of the Yang Soul Realm or had other abilities could use their vital energy and condense some magical powers. How does it feel? Among the fragments and the cultivators, Su Fang couldn't resist the invisible pushing force of the galaxy. He flew back in the galaxy and wiped his blood. He felt that his body was about to break, and he was already urging the pure yang energy in his body to absorb the power of the galaxy. Using the wings of fire cloud really worked, and the speed of his retreat disappeared. At this time, Li Ziqing flew over from one side. Flying in the galaxy seemed to be an understatement. What else can I do? If I didn't condense several layers of the flesh fetus divine armor, I'm afraid I would have died under the power of the dust storm. Su Fang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He deeply understood the insignificance of the cultivators in the galaxy. Looking in all directions, whether it was the Supreme God sect or the experts who were sent back, they had already scattered to a very distant location. There were several very large planets nearby, and they were all small worlds. Ordinary Yang Soul Realm cultivators have already died under the power of the dust storm. Some Yang Soul Realm cultivators have already been shaken to death. The dust storm can kill any cultivator. If a catastrophe realm cultivator comes into contact with the dust storm, they will also be burned to death by the huge power, turning into dust in an instant. Even immortals can't deal with the power of the galaxy. After Li Ziqing finished speaking, he pointed to the right, and a huge black planet was embedded in the galaxy. That is the Wu Tan realm. I estimate that with your speed, it will take you about 3 months to reach it. With my current ability, it will take me half a month to reach it. However, I have been suppressed for thousands of years and have used up an unlimited amount of energy. Therefore, I will slowly drift through the galaxy with you. With a flash, a king-grade flying sword appeared under Li Ziqing's feet. This unparalleled flying sword instantly became more than 10 meters long. Su Fang didn't hold back and used the wings of fire cloud to land on one end of the sword chi. Li Ziqing stood at the front of the flying sword. At this time, they were still in the region of the dust storm. A repulsive force was preventing the flying sword from flying. Terrifying. The galaxy is also terrifying enough. I can't release my true chi at will, especially when I absorb it. There is no aura suitable for human cultivation in the galaxy. Fortunately, the power of the 9 yang can still absorb some of the aura of the galaxy. He quickly swallowed some pure essence pills and the marrow cleansing pills that Li Ziqing had given him previously. After consuming them, his energy began to recover. Coupled with the 9 yin cold qi that he had absorbed from the chaos sacred realm, his body was once again in a perfect state. The left arm formed from the dragon taming wood constantly filled Su Fang's body with vitality. Although he was suppressed by the galaxy, his body was constantly recovering. After getting used to it, when he looked up with a normal heart, he couldn't help but sigh at the vastness of the galaxy. There were many large and small planets around him, and from time to time, he would see a distorted light flash through the galaxy. According to Li Ziqing's explanation, that was the door to travel. When they finally left the dust storm, the flying sword sped up a lot. The king-grade Dharma artifact showed its absolute control in the galaxy. Together with Li Ziqing, who was an ancient powerhouse, it turned out that drifting through the galaxy was so wonderful. In the vast galaxy, he didn't feel any danger at all. Senior Rock King, I will live well. He did not look like a country bumpkin who had just come to a big city from the countryside. His eyes were filled with coldness, and the strangest thing was that there was a flash of devilish qi in his eyes. It won't be long before you can still smile. Hiding the devilish qi, the Sky Gate's sacred emperor walked towards the immortal-seeking peak alone. Endless stars within the sea of smoke, 2 people and a flying sword were slowly flying towards the black planet. Whoosh! Suddenly, a cold wind appeared behind them. Li Ziqing turned around and frowned. Su Fang came back to his senses from his cultivation. He saw a small, ruby-red boat behind him. This small boat was currently sailing through the Milky Way. Could this be the heavenly boat? Su Fang smiled in surprise. Li Ziqing stared at it for a moment and immediately put away his king-grade flying sword. He also asked Su Fang to suppress the firecloud wings. The heavenly boat travels through the Milky Way. It's used by cultivators to control flying swords. Those who own the heavenly boat are all large clans, large merchant associations, or overlords. He had to admire Li Ziqing's cautiousness. A few seconds later, what kind of boat was this? It was a 300-meter-long, ruby-red boat. It was just that the hull was the same as a boat, but other parts were different. When it was less than 100 meters away, the heavenly boat slowed down. Whoosh! A few cultivators flew out of the heavenly boat on their flying swords and looked at the 2 of them. We are going to the Wu-Tan world. Do you want to take the heavenly boat? Thank you. Su Fang cupped his fists. But the price is a bit expensive, the other party said coldly. Seeing that Su Fang did not have any objections, he immediately waved his hand and ordered the 2 of them to slowly approach the heavenly boat. When they stepped into the heavenly boat, they realized that the heavenly boat itself was indeed a Dharma treasure. Its quality had reached high grade and king grade. Coupled with its shocking size, its price should be much higher than ordinary king-grade Dharma artifacts. The heavenly boat was like a whole piece of ruby-red sculpture. It was natural. When they entered a magical door, the oppressive force from the Milky Way disappeared completely. Chapter 347. The interior was a valley filled with green flowers and trees. Furthermore, there were spirit stones embedded everywhere, and a surge of abundant spiritual energy seeped out from under their feet. According to Li Ziqing's explanation, there must be a spirit vein or even a few spirit veins buried in this sky ship. Only then could the space and the sky ship constantly supply spiritual energy. Many white-robed cultivators were either standing around or flying slowly in the air. Inside the valley, there were hundreds of cultivators with different backgrounds and backgrounds. These were the cultivators who boarded this sky ship, and the price was slightly cheaper than traveling through the mystic door. Mo family's Wu Tan realm. Su Fong stared at some big flags or spirit stones with many totems engraved on them. What a coincidence, we boarded the Mo family's sky ship. After paying 10 million pure essence pills, the two of them went to rest under a big tree in the valley. Li Ziqing sighed emotionally. There are many families in the Wu Tan realm, and the Mo family and my Li family used to be one of the strongest families. After thousands of years, the Mo family should be even stronger, and my Li family, thousands of years. It was enough to change the world. Not to mention thousands of years. Su Fong felt that. He had only cultivated for less than 100 years, but he had already witnessed the rise and fall of the Su family and the destruction of the Zhao country. Strange, those two cultivators who just boarded are strange. I can't feel any golden core aura from them. Why do we never attack in the Mo family's territory, and we are about to reach the Wu Tan realm, don't have any ideas about them? What are you afraid of? The god of fortune is here, those two are strange, and they traveled to the Wu Tan realm, so they must have a lot of pure essence pills. We can at least earn back the travel expenses, right, brother? At this time, not far from the right, a few gazes stared at them from time to time. Su Fong and Li Ziqing, who seemed to be resting, appeared. Li Ziqing reminded, "You and I are not from any forces in the Wu Tan realm, so it might attract some people to have ideas about us. They don't know that tigers can't be touched." Hearing this, Su Fong couldn't laugh. Have ideas about them? Wrong, very wrong. Li Ziqing was a powerful being, the strongest person in a family, and must have been a big shot in the Wu Tan realm. What is he if not a tiger? Everyone, we have entered the Wu Tan realm. About 2 hours. Many experts of the Mahist clan appeared. After they formed hand seals, a door opened. Behind the door of wonder was the familiar natural sky and the depths of the clouds. Hua hua hua, over 100 experts walked out in a line. Don't let them go. Follow them closely. Once they leave the Mo clan's field of vision, we'll act immediately. Li Ziqing and Su Fong flew down from the clouds towards the ground. But to countless cultivators, that was just a thing of the past. And it was impossible for a family to control a territory forever. The Li family's decline was mostly because of Li Ziqing. The rest was because of the Li family's descendants. Su Fong also thought of his father and his family. Yes or no? I heard that someone from the Li family escaped alive, but it's been thousands of years. Who knows where they are? In short, this is the Gu family's territory, and behind the Gu family is the Green Lotus Sword sect. Who dares to offend them? The person in charge laughed and left. Walking out of the Chamber of Commerce, Li Ziqing felt a little lightheaded. I didn't expect that even the Green Lotus Sword sect had to be polite to me back then. Now, a disciple of the sect dares to snatch my territory, kill my descendants, and seize my resources. Su Fong comforted him, "Senior, these are not your responsibility. You were locked in the Xianjia Gate. Furthermore, the Green Lotus Sword sect is indeed powerful. They once destroyed the Zhuotian world's spirit sect." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.